Welcome to Odds.com's Tuesday night opening lines NFL show. Here we are. Happy Tuesday, November 3rd to all of you. Thank you for joining us here, Odds.com. Bebsy joining me as always, coming off his first losing week of the season. It took 8 weeks for you to lose more games than you win. That is extremely impressive, and I imagine you are out for blood right now. How are you feeling, my man?
Just a little bit upset, a little disappointed in myself. The saving grace is that I did tell the chat to start fading me. It was time. And, I hope you did exactly that. I hope you went against everything I did, and therefore you would have had a winning week. But it's time to bounce back, buddy. Let's get back in the good books.
Let's get back in the good books. Even your spite bet got you in the drink hole. And I wasn't cheering against you.
Yes, you kind of were. At least in that one.
Shout out to all the cappers in the chat. I think this card has a lot of beautiful opportunities for us. A trade deadline just passed, so some moves were made today. Also, we have COVID rumors and COVID facts coming out right now. Shout out to all the cappers in the chat. Nutflush Allen, ready to get to work. Lowbagger trip to Vegas this weekend. God damn, I want to be there. Breeders' Cup Championships. Oh, man. Mr. Fun Monk in the house says, let's warm things up with Bebsy's favorite thing to forecast. 70 degrees for most games. Mr. Fun Monk also with some trade deadline injury report, a bunch of news here in our chat. We got Buzznut721 in the house. Gerald Jones, DX Filer, Nilo, Bill McHugh, Steel Curtain, TJ Parks, Birdie in the house. Love my man Birdie. Maceo, Vic, ready to go. Let's get to work. But as always, while we can't promise you wins, we can promise you honesty and transparency. Let's go over the week that was. I went 8-6 plus 1.12 units. I was sitting there before the Monday Nighter extremely confident. I was 8-4. I had the Bucks first half minus 6.5. I had the Bucks first half team total over 13.5. And they both lose. It was a very interesting week for me. My 4 bets that I made on the Tuesday after the Tuesday show all lost. My 5 additions after the Sunday show all cashed. I went 5-0 on my additions. There was a guy in the chat who came on. I can't quote him perfectly, but he said something like, here we come to hear, expert angles, and all Jimmy is doing is figuring out his bets. Yeah, that's right. I was figuring out my bets. And if I could remember your name and you were in front of me, my sack would be placed in your mouth. I was figuring out my bets. It was helpful for all. I went 5-0 with these bets. Let's go over them. Tennessee, Cincinnati, first half over 27 was a loss. First full game over 54.5 was a loss. Those numbers went all the way down to 49. I knew I was in trouble, but I still think that game should have gone over and would have gone over. Third quarter, there were stops on the goal line. Third quarter was 0-0, and they get to 51 points. Then the Buccaneers debacle. Ravens first half minus 3 cash. Ravens full game loses. So at that point I'm 1-5. The double up, we talked about that. Jets Chiefs under, how it was a sneaky under. Bebsy agreed with me that it was sneaky under. That cashed. Then my Jets team total under 13.5 cash. It was 14.5 when I said it on the show. It was 13.5 when I went to bet it. So I got plus 100, made more money off of it. Bengals plus 7 cashed. Cowboys plus 10.5 lost. Should have cashed. The move that Bebsy and I made on Sunday that we got really confident on, that Steelers Ravens over, cashed and cashed very comfortably. Bears plus 5.5 cashed. And then after going 0-3 on props to start up the year, I bang out 2 winners. Herbert over 16.5 rush yards. Danucci over 12.5 rush yards. So I'm 45-40, 52.9% up, 0.02 units. How messed up is that? 0.02 units. Average line minus 111. Let's go to you, Bebsy. 4 wins, 7 losses, down 4.24 units on the week, but still a glorious campaign. You're on 33-20. 62.3% plus 9.75 units. Your ROI still plus 18.40%. Average line minus 112. You cashed on Indy minus 2.5. You lost on the Packers double up first half full game. You lost on the Titans minus 6 and the Titans over. You cashed that Steelers team total over 20.5, which you had said on the Sunday show was probably your best bet. The Bears team total under 19.5 that you bet out of spite. Lost. The Eagles -7 was an easy casher for you. You lost on the Tampa Bay double up, and then you hit that Steelers Baltimore over 43.5. Any thoughts on your action before we move on to this card?
I just thought it was interesting that Tom Brady, primetime game, gets outplayed by Danny Dimes until Tom's defense bailed him out. Where have we seen that before? Oh, right, his entire career. Tom is brutal. I will never bet on him again. He's garbage. Other than that, disappointed in the pack. They came out soft. They played soft. You were right about that. I was dead wrong about that. But now we get back. Now we bounce back. I thought I was going to be sitting here off of a giant week, and man, did the wind get taken on my sails in that first half last night. Birdie, Steel Curtain, The Real Jolly Roger, Christian Larson, DX Filer. What a great group. Lily Gunn. We got Vegas Gunn, Lily Gunn in the house. Prince of the City. All right. And I know that Prince of the City was laughing, thinking about your anger for Brady. I know he was. And watching these bets go down the drain, I know he was laughing. Dennis Garcia says Brady was beyond mediocre, but he says, to be fair, half the Tampa team was looking ahead. All right, Chris Brady ready to rock. Still, we are what? I'm 85 bets in the season. You are 53 bets in the season. We're up 10 units combined, and that's all because of you. All right, let's get to work. Bebsy, Thursday nighter, Packers-Niners. Man, this look ahead was Packers a slight, tiny favorites. The opening line at some books was 2.5. The opening line at Bet365 was 4 because they're cautious. It's now moved to 5.5 at most books, 6 at other books. And the big story right now is Packers and these COVID issues. We know that A.J. Dillon has come down with COVID. Before we break down the rest of this game, Bebsy, what have you heard about Packers and COVID? Well, A.J. Dillon tests positive, but then the rest of that running back group is deemed at risk because they've been too close to him. So even though they haven't yet tested positive, they're holding them out. Interesting. 63 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 12 miles per hour is the wind. And just like in college football on Saturday, we have gorgeous weather starting tomorrow all across North America all week. So there's very little weather to be concerned about. Let's go. Christian Larson says a lot of Ravens just got placed on COVID. Yes. So those are the two things we need to figure out here is Packers and Ravens COVID issues. Other than that, I think this is a really nice card to attack here. All right, Packers coming off 28-22 loss at home to the Vikings. It was Green Bay's first NFC North loss since LaFleur took over as coach last season. It was windy. With throwing difficult, the Vikings went to Dalvin Cook over and over and over again. The Packers filled the box and still couldn't stop them. What does that remind you of? NFC Championship when Mostert ran for 220 yards and Niners ran for 285 total. It's an issue that the Packers have. Cook ran 30 times for 163 yards, caught 2 passes for 63 yards, accounted for all 4 touchdowns. Packers had 4 scoreless trips to Vikings territory in the second half. Tight ends Tonyan and Sternberger each was Tonyan goes 5 for 79. Sternberger goes 3 for 46. Devontae Adams catches 7 passes for 53 yards. No other wideout had more than 1 reception. With Aaron Jones injured, Jamal Williams ran 60 times for 75 yards. Dillon 5 times for 21 yards. But now they might all be injured. Out. Birdie says, I think this line is too high. I was all over the Packers, but now I think perhaps the Niners may be the play. Need to talk this one out. Let's move over to these Niners. Bebsy, your specialty is these Niners. And I know that this has probably been one of the most aggravating seasons ever. It's one thing when they're a shitty football team and you expect them to lose and they lose. It's another thing when, if you look at their roster to start the year, it's the best roster in the NFC. Injuries keep mounting for these Niners.
37-27 loss at Seattle. Niners lose Jimmy G for at least 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. George Kittle for 8 weeks with a broken bone in his foot. The Niners were held to 52 yards on 22 carries, 2.36 yards per carry, third lowest in 4 seasons under Shanahan. Tevin Coleman hurts his knee. Hasty becomes their main running back. He's 12 carries for 29 yards. Fourth quarter with Seahawks coasting. Mullins comes in and does what Mullins. He's so confusing, Bebsy, and you can probably enlighten us. But here he comes with nothing on the line, and he looks, like Joe Montana, 18 of 25 for 238 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, those are what it was the 9th most yards passing in the fourth quarter in the past 30 years. They did get Kwan Williams back. That was an enormous help. DK Metcalf shat all over Emmanuel Mosley. Niners already without their best 2 edge rushers in Bosa and D Ford, their best cornerback in Richard Sherman, number 1 receiver in Deebo Samuel, 2 key running backs in Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. They lose Coleman to a knee injury, linebacker Demetrius Flanagan-Foles to a hamstring injury, Dante Pettis to a shoulder injury, Tart groin injury, James ankle injury, Jordan Reed could come back. What a mess, Bebsy. Sorry I was talking for too long. Take it away. I know that you think, like Birdie, that this line might be moving to a spot where you might want to back the Niners.
Yeah, I really think now that it's up to 5.5 in some books, I really think you got to lean Niners in this just because of the way they have dominated the Packers in recent years. Really, they've had the Packers numbers when they're pretty close. Now, the Packers played really uninspiring football last week. They bounced back the last time they did that. And the Niners got nothing left. The cupboard is bare. They have over $100 million on injured reserve right now. That is wild. I've never seen anything like it. However, JaMychal Hasty can still run the ball. Their offensive line is still relatively intact. They're missing their center. That's it. But they've been missing their starting center all year. They're now missing their backup starting center. And Kittle is so important in the run game. I think that's what people forget about because of what he does in the passing game, because he's such a monster there. He is huge for that running game. However, they still have Kyle Juszczyk. They still have Charlie Warner, who is just a run-blocking specialist. I think if Reed comes back, that obviously opens up the passing game a little bit, because right now they got Brandon Ayuk and they got Kendrick Bourne, who's not really reliable. They cut Pettis actually today.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But, yeah, I think there's value in betting the Niners at 5.5. At 2.5, you have to go Green Bay. But now that it's up to 5.5, I really think that there is some value in betting the Niners.
Let's talk about a couple things here. We saw the Packers have to run the ball with 23-mile-per-hour wind, which kind of surprised me that Rodgers was still unable to do anything through the air and had to move the ball on the ground, and they couldn't do that. With the way the Niners are beaten up defensively, with backups in, I mean, who knows who's going to be running for them, are the Niners susceptible on the ground with all the injuries they're facing?
In fairness, the Niners defense came out great against Seattle. They started with 3 straight 3-and-outs, and it was their offense that threw that game away. It was Jimmy Garoppolo throwing a terrible interception. They had almost fumbled the ball away on the play before, and that then and only then did the Steelers or the Seahawks get into that game and start rolling on offense. Defensively, despite losing Bosa, and Ford has played like 8 snaps this year, they actually still look pretty decent on defense. And their corners, Verrett, Mosley struggled a lot against Metcalf, but who hasn't? And to be honest with you, a few times he got the better of Metcalf. So it's not so much like their defense is still fighting. And they're still playing good, and their secondary is playing all right, even with the backups. And I feel like they could get a few more reinforcements for Thursday. Short week is tough for them, but I don't think it's a situation where Aaron Rodgers just carves them up, especially with the fact that they do not have a running game right now. Who's going to run the ball for them?
Let me ask the most important question, I think, in this game. What the hell is Nick Mullins? I don't get. He's very, very confusing, and at times he puts up stats that are, he puts up Breeze and Brady in their early 30 numbers, and then he gets pulled and is not. Shanahan doesn't want to use him. I mean, what are your expectations of Nick Mullins?
My guess is as good as yours. The thing with Nick Mullins is he's not afraid. I feel like Jimmy Garoppolo, especially this year, has thrown scared. But Nick Mullins attacks. Nick Mullins throws the ball. He tries to fit the ball into any window, and sometimes he's extremely successful. And one thing he does do well is he gets the ball into the hands of the playmakers, which I think is one of Jimmy's biggest flaws. But the interceptions that he threw against Philadelphia were absolutely atrocious. However, Philadelphia's pass rush was screaming down his throat in that game. So, I don't know. It's a tough call. And I did notice in the chat that Dan Pancos said 49ers have all their best players. You should bet them. They have value. I think he's paraphrasing what I'm saying and then said, come on, dude. The point is, even with all their best players out, they still move the ball. They still have some talent. And Green Bay's missing a lot too. And Green Bay, look, they played terrible this week.
They did. Their defense couldn't stop the run. You've not made a bet on a Thursday night all season. Are you thinking of making a move here on the Niners? Some books have moved it to 6.
I'm thinking about it. I just feel like I need to be honest with myself and continue to not bet Thursday night football in protest. I hate Thursday night football. I want it to go away. It's probably not going to go away. But I do really feel like there is some value in, especially if this line keeps moving up. The Niners are more than capable of keeping it close because Shanahan does have an excellent run game, even with they've got an undrafted rookie free agent running the ball, and the dude looks great. He's probably going to get hurt.
Yeah, probably. There's no move for me here. There's a lot of moving parts in this game, especially now that the Packers may or may not have a run game. This total opened up at 52, has moved down to 50. There's 49.5. There's a 50.5. The leading indicator books have moved it down to 49.5. I know there's so many moving parts here, and we're shooting this Tuesday night. It's 8:18 p.m. Eastern. But do you have a feel on this total at all?
Sorry. What was that total sitting at?
It opened at 52. It's now at 49. My man, or 49.5 to 50.5. Birdie's saying, where's the money going? Let's take a look at the money. At this point, it's I mean, this is what's so good. It's all on the Packers. The cash at this point, they're saying, is over 90%. Tickets just under 90% on the Packers. And that does make sense because the money that would have come in on Sunday night and Monday morning would have been all people trying to get ahead of this market move before the COVID issues came in. And then so it's ridiculously high on the Packers. And then the total is 60% cash on the over, 57% tickets on the over, and it's dropping. What do you think about this total, Bebsy?
I mean, if anything, I see this game. I don't see it becoming a shootout. I see this being a slog. If anything, both teams. Well, you know what? Even as I'm saying that, it doesn't make a lot of sense because the running game isn't going to exist for the Packers as of right now. Like it's, they might have to sit there in 5 wide sets all day.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is a weird one. I don't think I've ever seen a team as injured as the 49ers are. And I've never seen one day wipe out the entire backfield of the other team. So this is a weird one. I really have no idea what the play is here. But again, the Niners in recent years have really dominated the Pack. I mean, they embarrassed them in 2 games last year. And look, they really seem to have Matt LaFleur's number. he just comes out and nothing works. So as ridiculous as it sounds, with all these injuries, I still lean Niners in this one.
Well,
not have time to cover.
You have time to see where this line goes. One thing I do want to add, that in these times of COVID, there are things that we need to take in as cappers that we haven't had to worry about before. But let's not let it overwhelm us, because COVID in the NBA bubble made everything so incredibly easy. And obviously NFL is different. They're traveling from city to city, but let's not let COVID scare us completely off games, and let's let COVID do whatever it does for us to find angles to succeed with. Again, NBA in the COVID with no travel and none of those issues, and then the guys not going out partying or anything, was as easy as the NBA will ever get. And I know this is very different. It's probably a bad example. Green Bay Packers, San Francisco 49ers. If I gave you a free play, I'm sure at this point it would be on the Niners +6. If I gave you a free play on the total, if I gave you $500, bet it on the total, Packers, Niners at 50, what would it be?
I think I got to go over just because I feel like this ends up being an air game.
I think that's a good point, because the Packers know that they're so susceptible on the run that they have to fill the box all the time. And we just saw what happened when Hasty, if there's anybody in the box, he carried 12 times for 29 yards. I think that over is, especially if the Packers don't have a running game. If the COVID cuts out the Packers running backs, then this game is definitely going over. Is that a parallel that's just too harsh or too extreme?
Again, it's Thursday night football. We've seen how sloppy Thursday night games are. That's what pulls me back towards the under.
Ziggy Balls in our chat. Ziggy, we've missed you, my man. Ziggy wanted to take a little break from capping. Said he wasn't enjoying it what was it, Ziggy? 7-8 months back. Nice to see you back in action. Ziggy Balls, back in action, baby. All right, let's move on to Sunday action here. We're going to be going down the rotation numbers, which means we start with Seahawks, Buffalo. Seahawks open up at -3. They're now 2.5s on the board. They're still opened up at 51.5, and it's gone up to 55.5. And I want that 2.5 on the Seahawks at this point. Let's break it down. Beautiful weather in Buffalo. That's going to help the Seahawks immensely. 65 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 6 miles per hour. Russell Wilson had another big game. We just talked about it. 37-27 at home over the Niners. Wilson goes 27 for 37 for 261 yards, 4 TDs, 0 picks. Metcalf dominated Mosley. 12 catches for 161 yards, 2 TDs. Metcalf looks so good. Chris Carson, Carlos Hyde missed the Niners game, remained questionable. They had no running game. That's probably the reason why this total keeps rising, knowing that the Seahawks have to throw the ball. They were running with DJ Dallas. He ran 18 times for 41 yards. Seahawks have scored at least 30 points in 6 of their 7 games. Seattle sacked Garoppolo 3 times, 2 by Wagner. So after failing to record a quarterback hit on Kyler Murray, the Seahawks stepped up defensively. Wagner finished with 11 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 4 quarterback hits. They played without 5 starters and 1 key backup. Carson, Hyde, Jamal Adams, Mayowa, Ugo Amadi, Michael Upati were all inactive due to injuries. Shaquille Griffin is also questionable. The more I talk about this game, the more I want to make a move on Seattle. Buffalo coming off 24-21 win at home over the Patriots. I wasn't decided until Cam Newton's fumble at the Bills 13 with 31 seconds remaining. They did not look good. First time they beat New England at home since 2011. They dominated on the ground. Season best 190 yards. Singletary 86 yards. Zach Moss 81 yards. They had been averaging 97 yards rushing through their first 7 games, but they were gashed on the ground. 150 yards against. That run defense is now allowed 150 yards or more 3 times this year after only doing that once last year. Allen looks worse as the season goes on. 11 for 18 for 154 yards. Stephon Diggs, 6 of the Bills' 11 receptions. No one else had over 25 yards. He had 91 yards. Matt Milano down to 15 snaps. Why don't you just get this guy healthy? He's so important to you. Why don't you just get him healthy? Partially torn pectoral muscle. Mitch Morris, their center, sustained a concussion. He's in concussion protocol. Josh Norman, Micah Hyde, defensive tackle Vernon Butler, offensive tackle Cody Ford, all remain questionable. Bebsy, the more I talk about this game, the more I want to bet the Seahawks as soon as this video is over.
Yeah, I mean, everything screams the Seahawks just with the way that Buffalo's been playing lately. Even in their last 2 wins, they've played 4 weeks in a row. They have not played inspiring football. I feel like at some point they have to snap out of it, but I don't know if this is the week. I feel like Seattle has the upper hand. They are firing on offense even with injuries. And yeah, like you said, Buffalo won't get Milano healthy, and it's hurting their defense. Now, look, this is a Pats team that's looked terrible, and they still almost pulled out this win. So, and the week before, the Bills barely got past the Jets after coming off back-to-back losses. They played 2 bad divisional opponents, and still they were games. It was a game against the Jets. Yeah, they shut them down in the second half, but they have not been playing good football. I have to take the Seahawks in this, and I also think there's a first half Seahawks in play here, just because we've seen the Seahawks jump out, let teams back in. So if anything, I'd like to double up in this spot, because if the Seahawks play tight and lose this game, at least I'll have that first half, because there's no doubt in my mind that the Seahawks come out flying in the first half.
You know, I agree. I absolutely agree. I agree with the chat. And Tim Duncan and a couple other cappers are on the Bills, and we need that. That's the only way this sticks at 2.5, at least for the next 3 hours. And look, this isn't a slam dunk. It's just that, to me, what are you seeing from Josh Allen? Is it fair to say he's getting worse every game?
I'm just seeing a team that was so talented offensively in the first start of the first 3 games of the year. They looked fantastic, and now I've just seen a massive inconsistency from them, and I've seen them to struggle to score 2 weeks in a row against bad defenses.
Yeah, absolutely. That it was set up for them to get the monkey off their back against the Patriots, and they had to have Newton fumble on the 13 with 30 seconds left. I mean, that's as weak as a Patriot squad you're ever going to see, and you still can't take advantage of it. This is a spot where the Seahawks look like the move for me. You got some nice options at 2.5 for full game. Let's take a look at first half. Is this a double up spot for you, Bebsy?
I feel like it has to be. And look, there's some people in the chat saying that this feels like a trap. In a lot of ways, it does, but I just Seattle coming off a big win, just destroying the Niners. Now they go play the Bills, who are really struggling. I just don't see this as a bounce back spot for the Bills.
The more I watch the Bills, the more I remember Matt Milano a month ago, and we get all the Bills radio. So I listened to the Bills sports talking. Matt Milano was absolutely spectacular. 15 snaps last week.
Yeah, sit him down. I mean, like put him on the shelf until he's ready to go, because you should be a playoff team. You should be winning that division.
This is a fun spot. Now, whether or not, I mean, he's not going to get healthier. So, at this point, if any team could get healthier for this game, it would be the Seahawks with Carson Hyde, Jamal Adams, Amadi Upati, these guys ready to go. And it's gorgeous. Tim Duncan says it's gorgeous. Okay, before I give you these,
this might blow the minds of some of the chat, but we're in the Buffalo area here, and we are supposed to have above normal weather for the next week. We're supposed to have very nice weather.
He's
So
gorgeous.
I talked weather on a Tuesday. There you go.
Painstakingly. This total's gone all the way up to 55.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do feel like this ends up being a high scoring game because I see the Seahawks going up early in this.
I wonder if this 55 is too high. I mean, maybe I'll think about it at 56 or 56 and a half, but I certainly don't want it at this point. I would probably only lean towards an under, but I agree with you, Bebsy. I don't know if I'm going to double up here, and I'll make that decision as soon as the show's over. I'm certainly going to take the Seahawks, but you can get the Seahawks first half minus a half and minus 115 at BetMGM. Is that part of your double up?
Oh, absolutely.
First half minus 0.5. That's a minus 115 at MGM. And then you're going to get full game here on the Seahawks. Jesus. Wow. I'm not kidding you. It just moved. Oh, wow. It just moved, man. Okay, so you got that in, but the 2.5s are almost all gone. While we're talking, it's changing. Oh, that sucks. That means I'm not going to get the 2.5. You have 2.5 left on the board, and we didn't lock you in. Oh, wow, it's changing as we speak. I would lock this in now. 2.5 left at PointsBet at minus 120, Bebsy.
Give it to me, baby.
Full game minus 2.5, minus 120 at PointsBet. Wow.
It's these chatters moving it.
All right. Tim Duncan says, don't do it, Jimmy. It's a Buffalo game. I'm just not impressed. I'll tell you what, Tim Duncan, I'm not going to double up on it. I don't think I need to do that, but I'm just not impressed. And the Seahawks. Now, I getting the 2.5 is extremely important. It looks like I'm not going to be able to get it. Let me just check out right now what I'm going to be able to get here very quickly. I know I'm wasting people's time. We got to move on to the next game. But if I was to bet it right now, minus 2.5 and plus 100. Okay, I think I can get it. I think Seahawks are the play. I watch this Bills team very closely, and the last couple games have been ugly, where they needed to make a statement game this past week and they couldn't do it. Okay, let's move on right now to Broncos-Falcons. Broncos-Falcons. This is a fun one, a very, very fun one that I can't wait to break down. And
what's fun about it?
I want the Falcons. I love what the Broncos did last week. And what's fun about it, Bebsy, is I get excited. My palms start leaking when I talk about the Falcons. You know, over the last couple of years that I've lost quite a bit of money on the Falcons. But I know my man Birdie is very interested in the Falcons here. And I know the betting public is going to give me a 3.5 at some point. There's 4s right now. There are a couple 3.5s. But I wouldn't even be surprised if the betting public gave me a 3 by the end of the week. Everybody who's making moves remembers this huge comeback against the Chargers with Bosa on the bench with a concussion. And I think the Falcons are the play here. Broncos coming off a miraculous 31-30 comeback win over the Chargers, down 24-3 with 6 minutes left in the third. Managed just a field goal on their first 8 drives. Scored TDs on 4 of their next 5 possessions. KJ Hamler caught his first career TD with no time left on the clock. Unless you believe, and this is not ridiculous, unless you believe that they figured something out, because Locke had thrown 1 TD pass all year, and then he goes off in the second half. Unless you believe that they're going to carry this momentum over. By the way, Elway has COVID. So does the CEO of the team. So they're not going to be rolling with the boys. It's not going to be ass slapping on the airplane. Deshaun Hamilton caught 4 passes for 82 yards. He's stepping up. Judy, 4 passes for 73 yards. Noah Fant, big part of the offense, 7 passes, but just for 47 yards. Phillip Lindsay, we know how important he is. Melvin Gordon is not a strong number 1 option. Lindsay, 6 carries for 83 yards. Bouye, concussion. Nick Vanette, tight end, foot injury. So Bouyer's in concussion protocol. This was all during the game. Vanette's MRI came back clean. He's expected to play. Deontay Spencer and Tim Patrick, wide receivers they need, along with tight end Jake Butt, all remain questionable. Falcons are on extra rest, and I like them a lot here. They've won 2 of 3. It should be 3 straight if Gurley wasn't an ass clown. They held the ball 13 minutes longer than the Panthers in that win. Matt Ryan goes 21 of 30 for 281 yards. This team could be on a 3-game winning streak, and we wouldn't be getting this number. We're going to be getting an even better number because of the Broncos' miraculous comeback, which we have to take advantage of. Julio Jones catches 7 passes for 137 yards. He's rolling. Calvin Ridley's hurt. That's a problem. He's got a mild foot sprain. He's listed as questionable. Christian Blake tried to fill in and did a shit job. 2 catches for 14 yards. Brian Hill looks like he's taking a job over Gurley. 11 rushes for 55 yards. And they're pretty healthy. Cornerback Kendall Sheffield and defensive end Tack McKinley are both listed as questionable. Bebsy, I like the Falcons here, and this game excites the shit out of me. What do you think of this spot?
I just the real Jolly Roger said it best. Don't bet Atlanta unless you hate yourself. And you know what? I don't hate myself today. I just can't get on board with the Falcons. There you go, Al Cervic. That was for you, buddy. I'm like you, man. I've just lost too many times on the Falcons. I don't trust them. They are a little banged up. And even I'm not putting a ton of stock into Denver's come from behind win last week. The Chargers are becoming a disaster right in front of our eyes. I'm starting to agree with you. Never mind, I do agree with you. Anthony Lynn has to go. He's probably done at the end of this season because he's done nothing with a lot of talent. So I'm off this game. Neither of these teams inspire me to bet on them. Maybe if that line moves a little bit, if people, like you said, if the public starts thinking, oh, man, Denver's for real now, then I could start to look. But for me, it's a no play right now. We'll revisit this on Sunday and see if I'm a little more excited about it. But right now, I'm not. I love that you are. You were dead right last week on that Bengals call when I was so certain you were an idiot. So
I still may be an idiot, but
yeah, that's no, for sure you are. But you were absolutely right in that spot. So look, I love when Jimmy gets excited. I'm excited because Jimmy's excited, but it's a no play for me. And your breakdown, great. It's just not for me.
Oh, it's for me, baby. Woo! Got these leaky bombs here. I'm gonna be rolling with the Falcons. I'm gonna sit back and wait. Sit back and wait. Light up a cigar and wait. I want a 3. I want everybody to think of the Broncos' big comeback. I'll take a 3.5. But
if it gets bet down to 3, I'll jump on it with you.
I don't think it does, though. I think I'm just excited. I don't think it gets bet down to 3. I'll be if I can get 3.5 at 110 or 105. I'll take it. But I'm also going to first half this. This is a double up spot for me.
Wow. Well, Lily Gunn popped in and said this is a first half play. So you're in good company if Lily says so. I
am. Lily Gunn. We got the Vegas Gun. Half of the Vegas Gun joining me on this. Ziggy Ball says I lean Atlanta. Falcons haven't not covered against the spread this season at home. And yeah. And I will not. Al Cervic wants me to say Falcons. Look, it took me a few months to say Falcons every time. So I'm not going to go back on that. Look, I get it. Look, I'll change some of the problem Canadian enunciations for you guys. But if we're talking hockey, we're talking about a dressing room. And I will never change that. Ever. It's football. It's the locker room. Baseball. It's clubhouse. Clubhouse?
Clubhouse. Wait, what do Americans call a dressing room?
They think that there's only a dressing room at the Gap. Viper just loves it. Okay, let's go. Let's roll. We move on to another spot. And, I jumped on the Bears last week when it got to 5.5, and to me it was ridiculous that it got to 5.5 against the Saints team without their best two receivers. The Saints still pulled off the win 26-23, but the Bears are clearly being disrespected. And there's a 5.5 on the board for the Titans. I'll be shocked if it's here when this show's over. And now I'm all confident. And it builds with me. Now that I don't have a Tuesday morning show, I spend all morning, all day, all night, and I work on Monday night as well, preparing to be able to break down these games. And it's been hours and hours and hours, and it takes me a little while to build up the confidence on a certain play. And if I had more time, because it takes a long time to break down all these games, I would already have bet the Bears. This is a beautiful spot for a good football team. I think the Bears are a really good football team, and we're going to be able to take advantage of a second straight loss here. 73 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 8 miles per hour. The 5-3 Bears, 3-1 on the road, going at Tennessee, 5-2, 3-1 at home. Bears were in tough. They have an injury-riddled offensive line. We knew they didn't have James Daniels. James Daniels with that pectoral injury, he's out for the season, so he's out. Then they didn't have Cody Whitehair, their center, in the lineup. And then right tackle Bobby Massey hurts his knee on Chicago's first possession. They were in big trouble. They have no running game. They have no offensive line. They still get 96 yards rushing. Montgomery runs 21 times for 89 yards. Is that a sign of the Saints having a bad rush defense? Probably, but at least it gives them a little bit of confidence that they could possibly move the ball on the ground. They ranked 29th in total yards, 31st in rushing through Sunday. Foles, 28-41 for 272 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception. He has been struggling. He had a better game against the Saints. I'm happy they didn't go back to Trubisky. You've got to go with Big Dick Foles. Robinson, 6 catches for 87 yards. He comes back from a concussion. He's their leading receiver. Anthony Miller, 8 catches for 73 yards. And then Darnell Mooney out of Tulane has his best game of his career, young career, 5 catches for 69 yards, 1 TD. Wims is a slapper. Let him face slap anything. He's gone for 2 games. It doesn't matter because Mooney's going to take over that spot. Robert Harris, the defensive end, is hurt. John Jenkins, ankle, left Sunday's game. Bebsy, before I get into the Titans, am I too bullish on the Bears? Because I see this Bears team at 5-3 and think value. Let's bet on them here.
Well, no, I don't think you are too bullish on them. I do believe there is some value. You are right. They are being disrespected, and they're being disrespected because their offense is terrible, but their defense shows up. Time and again, they show up. And I'm not saying this just because the Titans lost to the Bengals last week. I'm saying this because the Titans tend to play up and down with their competition. And I just think it's too many points here that the Titans have been given. So I lean Bears in this one. I do think you're getting a little too excited with the way you're talking about the Bears. It's still the Bears. They still don't have an offense. But in this game, I think I would be with you because of the points. There's a lot of points given to the Titans out the gates here. And, they certainly didn't play inspiring last week, but I just think it's a lot to give up against this Bears team who we know they can play defense.
Maybe I said they're a really good football team. Al Cervic caught me on this. Let's say just good football team. And then as soon as I get confident, as soon as I'm ready to pull the trigger, Birdie says this, Bears have some COVID. So I don't have that information. That maybe I need to wait and see. Do you have any information, Bebsy, on Bears COVID?
Well, I was saying to you there was a bunch of games not posted earlier,
and this was one of them?
I don't think this was one of them. Most of them have filled in now.
Okay. Birdie says an offensive lineman and one guy sheltered because of closeness to the offensive lineman. Okay, well that'll. Jorge Rodrigo says Bears are trash. Titans cover. that'll give me pause because the Bears cannot lose anyone from their offensive line. We went over it. They lost Daniels for the year, and then if Whitehair and Bobby Massey that are questionable, and then they lose. So
offensive tackle Jason Spriggs, Vipers on that.
Oh, thank you guys, Viper and Christian Larson. Thank you guys. Okay, so then that's gonna. Let's talk about. Let me just put this note here. Let's talk about these Titans because they're coming off their second straight loss, and it was just because it was the Bengals that I had to build up confidence throughout the week to bet against the Titans. But I don't see the Titans as that good of a football team. Certainly not as good as 5-2. Even that, not as good as their record indicates. Coming off second straight loss, 30-21 at the Bengals. Derrick Henry, 18 carries for 112 yards. We talked about how the Bengals were going to get destroyed by the running game, but still, I don't know what to make of Tannehill. And it's crazy to say that about a guy you watch week in and week out, year after year. But he was outplayed by Burrow. He went 18 for 30, 233 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception. I like him. I like that he steps up late in games when everything's on the line. I like that he, played multiple positions in college, and there's so much to like about him. But when it comes down to executing throughout a game, I just don't see him do that. He's got character. He steps up. But A.J. Brown had an off game, and, man, Corey Davis, 8 catches for 128 yards. Bebsy, how long have we been waiting for Corey Davis to step up like that?
I mean, since they drafted him, I was one of those numpties who was looking at Corey Davis in the draft and thinking I was looking at the next Reggie Wayne, and I couldn't have been more wrong about that. But yeah, he played a heck of a game last week, and he showed spots of that player he was in college, but I don't know how consistent that is. And with regards to Ryan Tannehill, I think we do know who he is. He's an excellent athlete, and he's a solid quarterback. I don't think he got a fair shake in Miami. He was thrown to the Wolves a lot there, but this guy isn't a game wrecker. This guy's not going to come in and pick a defensive apart. They have to play one specific style of offense, and that's Derrick Henry smashing the ball over and over and over, and then things open up. And Ryan Tannehill is more than capable of doing things when they open up. I like him in that spot. I root for the guy. I do, because any guy who gets thrown to the Wolves that early in his career and gets a resurgence, I end up having a soft spot for them. A lot of that has to do with Alex Smith. But look, they have one style of game that they can play, and the problem is if they get too far down in games, then Henry can't beat up teams in the third and fourth quarter.
I agree. And you broke down that offense very well. The offense is very strong. It's the defense. This defense continues to struggle. They allowed the Bengals to convert 10 of 15 third downs. This year, opponents are hitting 61.8% on third down against them. Now, they picked up cornerback Desmond King today from the Chargers for a sixth rounder. I don't have it in front of me. They pick him up off the Chargers, and immediately he's going to be a top cornerback for them immediately. That's how bad their defense is. Now, it was a good pickup. They cut Vic Beasley after 5 games. They cut him today. So they give Jadeveon Clowney, who we see bounce from team to team to team. And we're not talking about tennis here. It's a team sport. And when you watch a prospect like Clowney get bounced around like a truck stop hooer, you realize that there's something wrong with his character. And
I don't know if it's so much Clowney's character as it is the fact that this guy made millions of dollars off of one college highlight. And it was maybe the most spectacular defensive college highlight anyone has ever seen. Now, he never lived up to that billing, but in his head, he deserves that massive contract, and teams just aren't willing to do it. I think that has more to do with him bouncing around. He is a very solid defensive lineman, but this guy wants $20 million a season. That's it. He's just nowhere near that good. Most incredible defensive highlight in college football ever, and the guy's still getting paid from that.
They paid $13 million for him this year, and that was a waste of money. They paid $9.5 million to Beasley. Obviously, they cut him after 5 games, which I despise. I hate that you could just cut a player at 5 games in a sport like this where you're risking your life every time you step on the field. I hate that they can just cut these players. It makes me angry, but let's do that another time. Bring in Desmond King. They have Adam Humphries in concussion protocol. As soon as I find out about the Bears' offensive line, I'm going to back the Bears here. So that's going to hold me back from making this bet tonight. Bebsy, what do you think of this total at 46.5?
If anything, I lean under in this just because I think the Bears' defense can kind of hem them in. And I really don't see, even against this weak Tennessee defense, I don't see Foles lighting them up. So I do lean on the under in this. I don't know if I'm excited enough to play the under, but that would be my look.
Yeah, it scares the shit out of me just because of the way the Titans are defensively. I mean, if we think, look at what the Bears do against the Rams. Look at what the Bears do against the Saints. I think they could do. I think they can put up 23 plus points against the Titans. And my thinking is, if they put up 23 plus points against the Titans, they cover. So,
yeah, I just look again. I think these two teams are strength versus strength, a little more evenly matched, and it's why I kind of want to take the points in this and go with the Bears. But I mean, like you said, that not knowing how many players are going to be out because of COVID now is yeah, it's a tough call to make right now.
Yeah, the whole idea of beating the market has changed this year with COVID. Okay, so I am going to move on the Bears. I just don't know when. Bebsy, what's your plan on this game?
I can't play anything until I know what the COVID situation is. I still just I think that's too many points to give up right now. I think the Bears, unless they're decimated with COVID players, I like the Bears in this, and I lean the under. But I need to know more. This might be me revisiting this on Sunday.
There's a reason why I love this card so much this week. I didn't love the card last week. I had a real trouble on our Tuesday show, and then I started figuring stuff out as the week went on. But I love this card this week, and it's because teams like the Vikings, Sean, they absolutely looked incredible when they had the circumstances working exactly in their favor, and we can take advantage of that. Vikings open up at -3. They're now -4. So total opens up at 53.5. It's now 52.5. The 3 and 4 Lions at the Vikings. The Lions picked up Everson Griffin today. So now that was out of Trey Flowers went on the IR. They needed Griffin. So it's not like an addition because they lose Flowers, who's been really good this year. The Lions are coming off 41-21, trouncing at home to the Colts. This is perfect. 7 straight home loss. Haven't won at home since October 2019. Lions have scored first in every game this year. Stafford, 24-42, 336 yards, 3 TDs, 1 interception. As a team, they rushed 13 times for 29 yards. Peterson ran 5 times for 7 yards. DeAndre Swift, 6 times for 1 yard. Now Trey Flowers on short-term IR. If they get Everson Griffin rolling, and I guess Everson Griffin can't play for them this week, right? Because he's got to go through the COVID protocols?
Yeah, it's weird. I think it's a 10-day protocol. I thought it was 14. But I think it's a 10-day protocol that they have to go through, so I don't know if he's eligible yet.
Okay, so Griffin probably isn't there. But if Flowers comes back from IR and they have Everson Griffin rolling, all of a sudden, Patricia has really something to work with. Now, Galladay left Sunday's game with a hip problem, and Patricia said it was – at first he said it was day-to-day, and then he said it was week-to-week. So don't expect Galladay to be in the lineup. But Marvin Hall stepped up, 4 catches for 113 yards. Hawkinson, 7 catches for 65 yards. He seems to do that constantly. Jamal Agnew, wide receiver, not used that much with a rib injury. Vaitai, their tackle, foot injury. Trufant missed the Colts game. He continues to be listed as questionable, but he could come back. And then here we have this Vikings team off a big 28-22 win at Green Bay. Dalvin Cook looked incredible. Rushed for 163 yards. Caught 2 catches for 63 yards. First Viking over 4 decades to score 4 touchdowns in a game. Cousins just 11 for 14, 160 yards, 1 TD, dealing with 23-mile-per-hour wind. He didn't risk, and that was fine. But Minnesota's defense stepped up in a big way. Vikings defense is so weak against the pass. So the 23-mile-per-hour winds allowed them not to worry about it. Not only are they weak against the pass, but Dantzler, their third-round draft pick, their cornerback, was carted off late in the first quarter. So he's doing well. It ended up being a concussion. His head snapped backwards, a concussion. He injured his neck, but he has a chance to play Sunday. Chris Boyd hurt his right knee in the fourth quarter, is questionable. That's another quarterback. Another quarterback, Mark Fields, suffered a pinhole puncture of his lung. So he's questionable. That doesn't sound questionable to me. It sounds like he's out of the lineup. And then Holton Hill remains questionable. So even without Galladay, this is all Lions all the time to me. Lions cover this game. Dennis Garcia says under 53.5 already played. Bebsy, take it away.
Well, Slats45 is saying Gerard Davis out for the Lions with COVID too. Is this another game where we're wondering about who's got COVID and who doesn't?
I hope not.
I mean, if that's the case, then because I was with you until I read that. I mean, yeah, Ziggy Balls is saying Vikings need this more. They absolutely do. They're coming off a huge win though, and I don't know how much of that had to do with how porous Green Bay's run defense is, or just how good Dalvin Cook is. And look, I'm a big Dalvin Cook fan. I think he's a phenomenal player, and they are an absolutely different team with him in the lineup versus him without the lineup. So, man, I think this is a really difficult spot, and especially if now there's COVID concerns on Detroit.
I didn't know about the Davis thing. That's why this show's so important. Thank you, Slats. I mean, I was about to bet the bet. I think, it's crazy because I came so close to betting before the show started, and I held off. It's like, you know what? Why don't you talk these through with the guys and girls and see how this bangs out? And okay. So I pumped the brakes on the Lions. Dennis Garcia is already on this under 53.5. What do you think of it?
I mean, Dennis is good company to be in, and I tend to agree with him here on this one. The only thing that really concerns me is the week that Cook put out last weekend. But, we've talked about this time and again. When you're coming off a career day, bet the under and the props against that player the following week. And so I don't think he's going to pop off like he did last weekend. So, yeah, I'm with Dennis on this. And, is it still sitting at 53.5?
No, it's down to 52.5 or 53. That does seem far too high, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I might tail Dennis on this one and jump on that.
Well, let me see what I can offer you here. Odds.com. Odds.com's odds page here. We're moving to totals for the licensed American books. Let's see what we're dealing with here. You can get – they're all down to 52.5 except for PointsBet. PointsBet giving you another nice spot. 53 at minus 115.
All right, I'm going to jump on that.
This makes a lot of sense to me. I know we're beating up these games and taking a lot of time on them, and I need to speed up. I can't have Bebsy doing these 3-hour shows, especially with the buys. But Bebsy, what would be your concern about this total going over?
My only concern really is Dalvin Cook going off. I don't see either team lighting it up except for him. And like I said, and we've talked about this a bunch, like, a guy is not going to go off in back-to-back weeks like that. So I just feel divisional game, bit of a dogfight here. I like this being a lower scoring game.
Al Cervic says, I've lost more money back in the Lions than any other team. I can't back them. I've lost a lot of money back in the Lions. I've probably lost more with the Falcons over the last 2 years. But if Dalvin Cook dominates this game, I'd like it for the under. In a great situation where Cousins doesn't take risks and doesn't throw deep balls. So I don't that doesn't hurt me. Christian Rivas in the house, fresh off a giant parlay victory in the last 24 hours. I don't know when it was, Christian, but a little 4K casher for my man Christian, our man Christian. Okay, Bebsy moving on the under 53. I am going to move on the Lions as soon as I get a little more information on the COVID situation. Also, I made a mistake in talking about the Everson Griffin situation because I thought he was picked up today, and Mr. Fungmung saying he was picked up a couple weeks ago. So that was
he was picked up a little while ago, but I don't know if he's eligible. He might be.
So okay. So that's a big difference maker. I am going to bet the Lions. I need to figure out what's going on with the COVID issue. And I do agree with your look on the under.
It's not my look. It's Dennis Garcia's look.
But it has become your look.
I'm just jumping on it.
No, I feel you. Dennis, great cap. Okay, let's move on. We have Ravens Colts, and I've got to speed this up. I enjoy this immensely, Bebsy. I get to sit here, have a drink, break down every game on the NFL card with you in the chat, and I maybe I take too much advantage of it. And the guy mentioned that. He mentioned that on Sunday, that I was just abusing this opportunity, and then I go 5-0, abusing that opportunity, and pick up a K ball sack in your mouth. Let's go Ravens, Colts. Ravens 5-2, Colts 5-2. Positive COVID tests for the Ravens. And is this rumor or hearsay? What's going on? Do you know any more of this, Bebsy?
Well, I do know. I saw Marlon Humphrey posted that he had tested positive for COVID earlier today. But that's the only one that I knew of for sure. But it sounds like it could be a bunch of them.
Okay.
This game, I'm not seeing it posted anywhere.
No, it's taken off the board. God, it's hard. This is tricky. But let's not let COVID bring us down. Let's still cap it as much as possible. Not only did the Ravens lose to the Steelers 28-24, but they lose all-pro left offensive tackle Ronnie Stanley. That was sad, man. He signs a big extension. They also lost guard Tyree Phillips with an ankle injury. He did not return. So Brown moves to left tackle. Fluker steps in at right tackle. Fluker looked great. And that's how the Ravens will likely, unless injury messes with it, likely line up for the rest of the season. Ravens were up 17-7 at the half. Lamar Jackson, 13-28 for 208 yards, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions, ran 16 times for 65 yards, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions. Very disappointing. 4 turnovers were too much to overcome. I doubled up on the Ravens, and I was very confident. I cashed the first half, lost the full game. Ravens ran for 265 yards. J.K. Dobbins, 15 times for 113 yards. Gus Edwards, 16 times for 87 yards. Willie Snead caught 5 passes for 106 yards. Mark Ingram, inactive, listed as questionable for this week. Colts coming off 41-21 trouncing of the Lions. Darius Leonard was back and was spectacular. 9 tackles, 1 strip sack, all over the field. It's not even what he necessarily does on the field, but it's what he does on the sidelines, pumping up the whole defense. Special player. Colts are lucky to have him. Colts allowed 5 yards rushing in the first half. 29 total on 13 carries. 2.2 yards per carry. After throwing 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in the first 5 games of the Colts, Rivers has looked much better of late. 6 touchdowns, 1 pick in the last 2 games, 23-33 for 262 yards, 3 TDs, and 1 interception. Nyheim Hines was awesome. Running back, Nyheim Hines was their leading receiver. 3 catches for 54 yards, couple touchdowns, couple flips in the end zone. T.Y. Hilton left with a groin injury. I don't know if it's a groin injury or he's just sad. 2 catches for 9 yards. He's been awful this year. Wilkins takes over from Jonathan Taylor as the leading rusher. 20 rushes for 89 yards. Let's say this is Colts minus – let's say this is Ravens minus 3.5. Let's use that as our guess. Take it away, Bebsy.
Well, now I'm reading. There's 7 players in proximity, close proximity to Marlon Humphrey being tested. I don't think this game's going to get played. If it does, as much as I really like Indy, the way they played last week, how good they are with Darius Leonard, this Ravens offense put up 280 rushing yards against a very good Pittsburgh defense. Yes, they've lost some players, but it was really just turnovers that cost them. They outplayed them and then lost this game. I just think as good – look, I'm high on Indy this year. I'm high on everything about Indy except for Phillip Rivers. But this is – if it were to open up like that, I would probably be all over the Ravens. The problem is who's playing?
Exactly.
Who's playing? Like if there's 8 guys, if you're counting Marlon Humphrey because he's for sure out, but 7 other guys, this game's probably not going to get played.
If it does, this is another situation that we have littered throughout the card where we have a team like the Colts who are coming off a 20-point trouncing and we can take advantage of it. This is Ravens if there's no COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. But if there's 7 guys out, then, definitely not going to happen. But I think a lot of people are going to get high on Indy beating the Lions and, going to pretend like the Ravens didn't outplay the Steelers. They did. And you know how bullish I've been on the Steelers all year. But look, the Ravens, man, J.K. Dobbins looked like a stud. And J.K. Dobbins, man, I loved him coming out of Ohio State. I wanted him to go higher than he did. I think he's phenomenal, and he proved it. He looked fantastic, yes, on Sunday. So, yeah, if this is around 2.5, 3, and you can jump on that, and there isn't 1,000 Ravens out with COVID, then you jump on the Ravens here.
Yeah, Dennis Garcia leaning towards the under. Let's say there's only a couple guys out for the Ravens with this COVID issue, and I don't have the under anywhere. Let me see if I can find anything for the under. No, it's completely off the board right now.
Well, as great a player as Marlon Humphrey is, and he is phenomenal, I don't know how much that plays into it because it's not as though Phillip Rivers has the arm to exploit corners. However, Marlon Humphrey is fantastic in the run game as well.
Too many moving parts at this point, but this is if there weren't all these moving parts, we'd be able to take advantage of that 20-point victory.
Dennis Garcia is saying this is bettable on 365 right now.
Oh, shit. Let me just move over there. It is. Ravens minus 2.5 is bettable. Maybe they're too caught up in the election. The total is at 45.5. Good call. Good call. Thank you. Thank you. What do you think of that total at 45.5? Because in my head, when I was going to give you a number, I was going to be much higher than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that seems very low.
Yeah. That seems very low because we know what if Rivers gets behind, he's going to noodle arm it out. Wow. Now, but in all honesty, can you take the Ravens at -2.5 with the COVID issues, and you can't. Right?
Well, here's the thing. If there's enough guys out, then they'll just cancel the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't want to hope for that. Okay, I'm gonna wait, but the Ravens and the over I find very interesting. Okay, let's move on to Panthers Chiefs. 69 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy. We have wind in Kansas City, 19 miles per hour. Chiefs open up at -12.5. They're now -10.5. This total opened up at 51. There's 52.5s and 53s on the board. The 3-5 Panthers at the 7-1 Chiefs. Panthers are on extra rest following their 25-17 loss at home to the Falcons on Thursday night. They've now lost 3 straight. Bridgewater 15-23 for 176 yards, 1 TD, 1 pick. DJ Moore caught 2 passes for 55 yards. Robbie Anderson 5 passes for 48 yards. Samuel looked, got 2 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 1 rushing, which was impressive, but it didn't light up the statistics other than that. Mike Davis, 13 carries for 66 yards. Panthers were just 2 for 10 on third downs. Cornerback Dante Jackson, toe injury. He had to leave the game. That secondary for the Panthers is beat up. Troy Pride, rookie Troy Pride and Corn Elder at the cornerback spots. Matt Rule says Dante's feeling better. He's expected to be back in the lineup this Sunday. Christian McCaffrey expected to return. Defensive tackle Zach Kerr and offensive tackle Russell Okung are questionable. Chiefs coming off 35-9 win at home over the Jets as 19.5-point favorites. Mahomes is incredible. 31-42 for 416 yards and 5 TDs. Travis Kelce caught 8 passes for 109 yards and a TD. Tyreek Hill, 4 passes for 98 yards, 2 TDs. McCole Hardman, 7 passes for 96 yards. They only rushed for 50 yards on 20 carries. Le'Veon Bell, against his former team, ran 6 times for 7 yards. He did catch a few passes for about 30 yards, but Edwards-Helaire, 6 runs for 21 yards. Watkins and Schwartz still inactive, and that was a beautiful double-up spot for me that we talked about on the Sunday show. Those were both Sunday editions, the under and the team total under. Glorious. Bebsy, Panthers, Chiefs. This game is tricky. I can understand that 12.5 has gone down to 10.5, but I don't have a lean right now. Can you illuminate a spot for us?
Well, look, it's like the Broncos game earlier that I sat on, and then it just got bet down, and then it was an easy play for the Chiefs later in the week. I kind of feel like that's going to happen again here. It's already been bet down quite a bit. Even looking at the chat, everyone's hopping on the Panthers, and I can kind of understand that, but it's really hard to bet against how explosive this Chiefs offense is. So I think I'm going to sit and wait and see if this gets bet down further, because if this gets below 10 even, I might be more intrigued to hop on this, and it could go even lower the way it's trending right now. But I got to bring up the fact that I understand it's the Jets, and I understand you're the Chiefs, and you're rolling, and you're Super Bowl champs. But how disrespectful was that mid-game dance going on? It was hilarious. The comedian in me just loved it. But that's going to put a target on some Chiefs' backs. You could do that in a Jets game because the Jets are staring at 0-16. But, yeah, man, I don't know. I'm going to sit back and watch this. I hope it keeps getting bet down, and then I'm going to jump on it when it gets a little bit lower because I see it happening.
Yeah, you handled that so perfectly against the Broncos. So that makes a ton of sense. Let's move on to Texans, Jaguars. Texans are most likely going to be my survivor pick. It's a strange year for survivor pools. We're week 9, and there'd be no major upsets. So pretty much everybody's still good. There is a weather issue, not a big issue because it's in Jacksonville, but 78 Fahrenheit rain and 17 mile per hour winds. So that does give you food for thought. Texans open up at -6. They're at 6.5 at some books, and others at 7. I don't see how this isn't a double up spot. It's total at 51, down to 15.5 for 50. I think the Jaguars team total under. Now, maybe I'm disrespecting their new quarterback, and we'll break them down. Both teams coming off buys, and maybe that's another Texans coming off their bye week. We last saw them losing their second straight game under Crennel, 35-20 loss at home to the Packers. Their top cornerback, Bradley Roby, he left with a knee injury, and Devontae Adams just completely took advantage. Crennel said he didn't think it was a serious injury. He's listed as questionable. Packers were up 21-0 at the half. Texans did a little bit to come back. I was on the over in that game, and I lost. And I thought I was going to still cash, even though it was Texans hadn't scored at the half. Watson, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4th straight game with 300 yards. David Johnson does not look good. 14 carries for 42 yards against the Packers. The Packers team that can't defend the run. This is a huge problem for the Texans, so they can't move the ball on the ground. And they forced Deshaun Watson to do everything. Linebackers Kyle Emanuel and Peter Kalambayi listed as questionable. Tight end Jordan Atkins also listed as questionable. Jaguars come off their bye, riding a 6-game losing streak. We last saw them in 39-29 loss at the Chargers. They tied an NFL record by allowing 30 or more points in 6 consecutive games. Minshew, multiple fractures and a strained ligament in his right thumb, won't be in the lineup. Starting job goes to 24-year-old rookie Jake Luton. Luton, 6th-round pick out of Oregon State, beat out Mike Lennon for the job. I kind of wish it was Glennon just from a handicapping perspective, because we don't really know what Luton is going to do.
More than he's marginally better than Mike Glennon.
Yeah, there's more of an upside with him. I don't know if he's better. If in one game, I don't think he's better. But he
actually, you know what? He might even be worse, because this I don't know. This screams tank right now.
Agreed. This screams Trevor Lawrence.
This screams I'm trying to get Trevor Lawrence, but I can't because the Jets have that on lock. So we're looking at Justin Fields.
Yeah, who is going to be very, very good. Luton threw for 5,227 yards, 42 touchdowns over 3 years. Still, that Oregon State team in 2019 was 5-7. Sidney Jones against the Chargers. Sidney Jones, their cornerback, left with a concussion. He's listed as questionable. D.D. Westbrook. I mean, they turned the cameras away. They didn't want you to see. It was if any of you guys, I mean, I still go back to this. I know it's wrong sport, but I still go back to Alexander Mogilny breaking his leg right after a couple of years after his 76-goal season, and they didn't want you to see. He was on Buffalo, and the cameras it was so hideous. It was that kind of a thing with D.D. Westbrook. Linebacker Dakota Allen did not return after an ankle injury. He's questionable. Miles Jack, Jared Wilson, A.J. Cann, and Tyler Eifert all listed as questionable. Bebsy, this has Texans written all over it.
Yeah, it's a lot of points, and it's a bit of for me, it's a bit of unknown. Obviously, we don't know anything about Luton. I never even fucking heard about this guy before today. So I'm scared at just how bad this Houston football team is, especially on defense, especially in the passing game. So not that I think that this guy can tear them up. I'm not as excited about it as you. Can we get a first half look here?
Definitely, because that would be another thing I'd want to take advantage of. Let's see. This feels like a double-up spot. Now, is this a square double-up spot where I'm going to get hurt? That'd be the only thing I'm concerned of. But I'm not that concerned about it because the Texans have to win this game. Jobs are on the line. Crennel was studying all about
jobs. They already fired their coach. They're already looking for another guy.
But Crennel wants a spot.
Does he? Does Romeo want that now? Fine, just sticking to his thing. I don't know if he wants to be in the spotlight at this point. I don't know if there's that much urgency with Houston. The only thing that's going for that look is the fact that they don't have any picks anyways because Bill O'Brien gave them all away for a jar of cookies.
Real Jolly Roger says Houston replaces a bad coach with a terrible head coach. Birdie has a very interesting point here. He said, did anyone see Watt's presser after the last game? The Texans will respond. Watt was embarrassed. They will respond. It was interesting. He was as angry as we've seen him. Because usually, he likes to be in the spotlight. Now he was just angry. This is a double-up spot for me. Texans smash. I need to get in before it gets 7.5.
What's the first half?
Let me line chop for you here. First half spread. This is at odds.com's odds page here. And let's see what I can give you. Texans first half. There's a best is at Bet Rivers -3.5 and -113. See, to me, Bebsy, this is not a look ahead spot. This is not a bad. These are two 1-6 teams going at each other, and that's why I love the Texans.
I'm not acting like it's a look ahead spot. It's they're two 1-6 teams for a reason. They're two shitty teams, and one team has a little bit more talent, and that's only because the other team's talent is currently on the shelf. So
yeah, no, that's fair.
It doesn't excite me like it does you. The first half does a little bit more because I think this Luton kid could take a little time to get adjusted to the game.
-3.5 and -113 at Bet Rivers. Is that what you want?
Yeah, I'll hop in there, but I'm not as bullish on this game as you are.
You know, Bebsy, also you have a very exciting life. This is all I've got, so I'm going to.
Do I have an exciting life?
Well, not right now because of COVID, but if COVID wasn't here.
Nobody has an exciting life right now.
All right. I'm doubling up
I'm trying to take a month off drinking. You know how much no fun I'm having right now?
I know. I can sort of hear it in your voice. Also, you can probably hear that I've had a drink, so that's probably going to upset you a little more.
Hey, got to clean it out.
I hear you. So, Bebsy, on the Sober November, I think these shows are it'll be interesting to watch this happen because you're only 3 days in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to get hammered by the weekend, but
okay. All right,
3 days in.
All right, let's move on to New York Giants against the Washington Football Club. 67 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 4 miles per hour, gorgeous weather in Washington. Beautiful weather. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm still on first half. Let's move over to full game. Give you the spreads and totals here. This total opened up at 43, down to 41.5. Washington opens up as 3.5-point favorites. That's now down to 3. Giants are in a short week after their 25-23 home loss to the Bucs. Interesting game. I lost money on it. Jones was 25-41 for 256 yards, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions. He's now throwing 9 interceptions this season after throwing 12 last year. He did lead a late drive that was beautiful. This is an improving Giants squad. There's no doubt about that. Improving in all facets of the game other than their running game. Sterling Shepard, 8 receptions for 74 yards. Ingram, 5 receptions for 61 yards. Slayton, 5 for 56. Their defense was strong. They held the Bucs to 344 total yards, 4 for 12 on third down. They look better in every facet of the game, but their running game is atrocious. Gallman ran 12 for 44. Alfred Morris. We got an Alfred Morris sighting. 8 carries for 28 yards. Devontae Freeman remains questionable. Cornerback Ryan Lewis. Safety Adrian Colbert, excuse me. Don't get Canadian. He's not French-Canadian. Wide receiver C.J. Board are all questionable as well. Let's start with the Giants. What do you think after the Monday Nighter? And can we abuse the public's perception of them against against a Washington team that's off of a bye?
Yeah, I think there's a possible look there. I'm not a big Giants guy, and they've been horrible for a few years in a row now. I still have little to no faith in Daniel Jones. I think the problem with him is protecting the ball. He fumbles too much. He throws too many picks. He does throw a nice ball sometimes, and he's very clearly athletic sometimes, but their defense, the Giants' defense, is quietly coming together. I think if they continue to get good parts and fix them in, they will have a better defense soon. They have impressed me at times. I'm not excited about it, and I also I've spoken all year about how much I like the Washington Football Club or one of the Washington Football Team. I like their defensive front. Their front seven is talented. They don't have much of a secondary, and they have a horrendous offense. So this is this is two defenses that can actually play a little bit in a horrendous division, and that's really all either of these teams have going for them right now.
that was a sad, sober breakdown.
Yeah, sorry. It's just that's all I have to say.
So sad. Washington's coming off their bye week. We last saw them in a resound. Let's talk some excitement. This Washington team. Now, look, Rivera making a decision on their quarterback that may have separated the room. I don't know what it did to the room. I have no idea what it did to that locker room. But they're coming off a 25-3 win at home. Their defense that you just spoke proudly of, 6 sacks, a pick, a forced fumble that became a safety. They snap a 5-game losing streak. They allowed just 142 total yards. I know it's a bad Cowboys team. They put up 397. They win a game by double digits for the first time since November 2018. Washington was the last team this season that didn't have a rusher of over 60-plus yards. Antonio Gibson did that in the first quarter. He runs for 128 in the game. As a team, Washington picked up 208 yards on the ground, allowed 83. Allen, 15-25, 194 yards, 2 TDs. McLaren caught 7 passes for 90 yards, 1 TD. Landon Collins injured his left ankle in non-contact fashion. He limped off. He's done. Anytime you hurt yourself just, alone, you're done for the year. Montez Sweat had 2 sacks. He's evaluated for concussion in the second half. I expect him to be back. This, to me, is another situation. And let's see what my record is at the end of this week, or with this week's games, because there's so many situations to me that are absolutely perfect. And this is one of them. We all see the Giants play very well against the Bucs. We haven't seen the Washington football team in 2 weeks. This is all Washington all the time for me. Is this crazy, Bevsy?
I mean, how do you confidently bet on the Washington football team right now? There's my problem with this. I don't think you're wrong. I do think that, yeah, the public is going to be high on the Giants because they held on tight with Tampa, but they're still playing Washington. So I don't know, man. It's hard for me to get. This is another game of 2 garbage football teams, and yeah, that front 7, they are going to eat Danny Dimes up. What's the point total in this game?
Well, that's what Cappers in the chat are talking about right now, whether that under is what should be looked at. Opened at 43. It's now at 41.5 across the board, but the leading indicator books have already moved it to 41.
Yeah.
Nathan Cerna says this game screams under.
Yeah, I think you got to get on this now. Wish you could get in earlier. Still okay to get in now. I don't see much scoring at all in this game. Unless it's, that defense picking up Daniel Jones's fumbles and running him in.
Pineapple Cook says, call me crazy, but Washington's best team in the NFC East. Wentz is overrated. Decent quarterback. Washington wins the division. I can't remember if it was Dennis or Birdie. One of them has a bet on the Redskins to win the division at like an astronomical price.
I don't think that's crazy at all. I really don't. I think Washington – look, they actually have a very good defensive front. Not much else there, but that goes a long way. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's another position group in that conference I think is better. Or sorry, that division, I mean. The conference, yes. But
oh, yeah, Birdie's got it 11-1. I'm not going to take the under. Although I like it. If I had free play, I would. I am going to take Washington as soon as this show's over at -3. I do not expect it to go to 2.5.
I'm going to take this under.
You are? Okay, let me lunch up for you.
This screams under to me. Wish I could have got a little bit more out of that. Got in earlier, but I still like it.
All right, let me get it for you right now. Line shopping here at odds.com. The under. Let me find it. Here we go. The under is 40. Oh, there is a 42. There's a couple 42 still on the board. FanDuel's 42, minus 118. FoxBet at minus 110. I can give you under 42 at minus 110 at FoxBet.
Fox me up, baby.
Bebsy under 42, minus 110 at FoxBet. And I will be sitting back relaxing with a bet on the Washington football team. Real Jolly Roger says this under's only going to go down. Alvin Smith says, be careful, Giants don't quit. Look, I love it, Alvin Smith. I'm going to take advantage of everybody's subconscious. We all just saw the Giants play very well against a very good Tampa Bay Buccaneers squad. I'm going to take advantage of that. And I love it. And there's so many spots like this on this card that made me so excited. All right, those are the 1 p.m. games, Bebsy. Those are the 1 p.m. games. We sure took a lot of time to break them down. That's my fault. But those are the 1 p.m. games. Let's go over your looks and get a best bet from you. You were on the Seahawks, first half minus a half, full game minus 2.5. You are on – I've got a lot of looks here myself. This is going to be so much fun. You are on the under 53 at minus 115 in Lions-Vikings. You are on the Texans, first half, minus 3.5, minus 113 at Bet Rivers. I'm about to ask you what your best bet is. You're also on the under 42 in Giants Washington Football Club. What's your best bet on the 1 p.m. games?
Seahawks first half minus a half. It just feels like easy money to me right now.
All right, locked in. Seahawks. Let me just put some extra asterisks there. Jesus, I have a lot of page notes. Okay, there we go. Those are the 1 p.m. games. Let's move on to afternoon action. Afternoon action. Mark Nicholson said, let's get this paper, fellas. I love that 1 o'clock card. This is I'm going to be very, very excited on Sunday. I think part of it's not having as much weekday action as we're used to, but man. All right, 4:05 p.m. action, Bebsy. We're talking Raiders, Chargers. Total opens up at 52.5. It's now up to 53. Chargers open up as 2-point favorites. It's now down to 1 at some books. Pick 'em at some books. 1.5 at others. Cold in LA. So it's warm everywhere. And then for whatever reason, Sunday, it starts getting cooler in LA. It's hot there right now, but it's cool on Sunday. 61 Fahrenheit, mostly sunny, 8 miles per hour. Raiders snapped 11-game losing streak in games played below 50 degrees by winning 16-6 at Cleveland on Sunday. And it was a big morale booster for the club. They allowed the fewest points since 2012. And then Jacobs, I didn't beat myself up because I went 2-0 on props, but it was that stupid knee barking thing that they said about him for the first couple of days of missing practice. And when we were talking about it on Sunday, Bebsy, I asked her, I was like, do you think that was just an excuse for him to take a breather, watch some film? Because he said he was watching all the film, and that is what it was. 31 carries for a season-high 128 yards. That should have put money in my pocket, and I'm angry that it didn't. Most rushes for a Raiders player since 2007. The 45 runs for the Raiders in total. 14 other players rushed the ball. 14 other times they rushed the ball without Jacobs. Most in the game for the Raiders in 8 years. Derek Carr, 15-24, 112 yards, 1 TD, 0 picks. Waller led the receiving corps with just 5 catches for 28 yards. Second straight week, the Raiders were held without a sack. Only 1 quarterback hit. Bebsy, this game is very tricky.
Couldn't agree more.
Bullish on a couple spots. This game, I don't know what to do with. I don't think Trent Brown will be back in the lineup. IV mishap. His pregame IV did not go well. Air entered the bloodstream, rushed to the hospital right away. Now, Denzel Good, Brandon Parker were great. Henry Ruggs struggling, Bebsy. 2 catches for 35 yards 2 weeks ago. 2 catches for 8 yards last week. I know it was a tough spot. Defensive tackle Maurice Hurst hurt his ankle. It's not considered serious. That was in the game. Safety Jeff Heath also left the game with a hip injury. Both of those guys are not expected to miss time. Cornerback Damon Arnett injured his wrist. He's expected to go on the IR. The Raiders dominated time of possession. Listen to these stats, Bebsy. They had 3 drives that took at least 8 minutes off the clock. 5 drives of at least 10 plays. That's just the second time they've done that in 18 seasons. The Raiders limited the Browns to 6 drives all game. That's the fewest in any game in the past 30 years. And now they go into the Chargers. I don't want to talk for too long. Let's talk about the Raiders right now. What do you think of that 16-6 win? What do you think of their chances here on Sunday?
I mean, if you gave me a free play, I would take the Raiders. I just feel like they're a better team headed in the right direction right now versus a Chargers team that, look, they're blowing big leads left, right, and center. It's embarrassing. It's all on the shoulders of Anthony Lynn. And then they go out and they trade Desmond King, former All-Pro nickel corner, for a 6th-round pick. Look, the Chargers organization has been a mess at the top for a long time. And I heard that deal had everything to do with the fact that somebody in the organization doesn't like him. But how do you let a player out the door, that talent out the door for a 6th-round pick? You got nothing for that guy? That's insane to me. That's insane to me when you look at the Niners moved Quan Alexander, who's finished 3 seasons on the IR, and he's costing $16.5 million, and they got a 5th for him from the Saints. And here you are trading away Desmond King for a 6th. That's just mind-boggling to me. And so for that, I gotta lean on the Raiders here just because they're not as dysfunctional right now. That said, look, we've seen how good the Chargers can be, and this is a divisional game, so it's really hard for me to take a strong side in this one. But what a disaster the Chargers organization is.
I wish I could trade spots with Anthony Lynn just to show the world that how easy it is to do a better job than him. Chargers, that 31-30 loss at Denver, they spent the majority of the second half with a 95% chance of winning. With 6:19 left in the third quarter, they're up 24-3 with a 98.8% chance of winning.
The first team in NFL history to blow 4 straight games when leading by 16 points. That's wildly terrible.
Yeah, they are. And teams when leading by 17 or more points this year are 52-4. The Chargers are now 0-3.
What a disaster.
Yeah. Real Jolly Roger said I replace Lynn with any 12-year-old Madden player. It always comes down to Madden. When I see these guys make these mistakes, I'm like, what the fuck? Did you not play Madden? So Herbert joins Deshaun Watson as the only quarterbacks in NFL history with 4 straight games with 3 TD passes. That's how good he's been. I was surprised when I read that stat.
He's been excellent while Anthony Lynn has been terrible. And look, you were on it way earlier than me. I was pro Anthony Lynn to start the year, and I'm at the stage now. And I've always, for years, he's been slow at the gates and turned it around. But this is the one of many problems in Chargers land, wherever they play. They don't play in San Diego anymore. They're just a mess. Top down, Anthony Lynn's got to go. There's still a few coaches that need to be fired. Obviously, Adam Gase being one of them. I think Adam Gase is only there to complete the tank. But, Anthony Lynn has also got to go.
Justin Jackson runs 17 times for 89 yards. Pope ran 10 times for 67 yards. So my whole idea when I made the bet on Herbert over 16.5 yards, rushing yards, was that these guys weren't going to have games like that. So I managed to hit the prop for Herbert. And to me, that says that the market has just got it wrong. So I plan on betting that Herbert prop again, thinking that the market is going to be slow to figure out that he can move the ball on the ground. And this is the perfect game for him to do that with. quarterbacks, when you need a rush yard prop, you need the quarterback in a tight game, close game where they need these yards. So I plan on going back to the well with the Herbert prop for rush yards over. He goes for 66 2 weeks ago. And then they lined it at 16.5. And we talked about it on the show whether this was a mistake going in it after a big game. But 3 carries it took him to get 21 yards. This is a really tough game. So I'm not making a move on it. Raiders, Chargers, what do you think of this total at 53, Bebsy? I say it because I think it's a little high, but maybe I'm just have this bias of watching that Browns-Raiders game.
Yeah, if anything, a little bit high. But again, both of these teams are capable of putting up points, so it doesn't excite me. I'm off this game entirely. Yeah, I might tail you with that Herbert prop later in the week. We'll see where it's at.
This is a perfect game for that. Okay, we've talked about. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to the 425 spot. Steelers, Cowboys. Steelers are 13.5-point favorites. This total went from 42 to 41.5. Shout out to the diehard MMA podcast that got me on the Danuch prop. Both those props, I could go right back to the well, and I know that's a mistake. So I know that's just the biases that we have in our lives. So I'm not just going to go right back to the well, but it feels like Danuch is going to get – Danuch can't throw the ball, so he's going to have to run the ball. Let's talk about the Steelers first. They pick up inside linebacker Avery Williamson from the Jets today, vet Avery Williamson. I love the pickup. I love what Spillane ran that pick back 33 yards.
Spillane's had 2 monster plays in back-to-back weeks. That run stuff on the 1-yard line against the King.
Yeah, you spoke on that.
Monster run stuff. And then the pick 6. Like, the dude's balling out. I agree with you. I like the Avery Williamson pickup.
You talked about it last week. He hurts himself on that stop, and that must pump everybody up. And then he's back next week with a 33-yard pick of Lamar Jackson. I mean, that's what team. That's everything about team. I mean, how do you not lose your mind when you see that guy in the locker room and get excited to get out on the field with him?
Yeah.
Steelers coming off that 28-24 win at Baltimore. Coax Lamar Jackson into 4 turnovers. They're now 7-0. Only other time the Steelers 7-0, 1978 when they won their 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years. Down 17-7 at the half. After completing only 4 passes for 24 yards in the first half, Big Ben goes 21-32 for 182 yards, 2 TDs. Juju Smith-Schuster catches 7 passes for 67 yards. Ebron and Claypool caught TD passes. You know, Bebsy, when Claypool caught that TD pass, I was upset. We knew it was a time to take his props. And it was a mistake, and we need this money. And it was a mistake that actually, like, I had to get up and go for a walk. After a player of Claypool's skill set catches 1 pass for -2 yards, not only is he going to step up, but Ben's going to look for him. That was a mistake that still makes me angry. Nose tackle, Alawalu left in the first quarter with a knee injury. That left Pittsburgh very thin up front because Wormley was on the IR on Saturday. So that left them really weak. Defensive back Mike Hilton was inactive, remains questionable this week. Cameron Hayward's a minor quadriceps injury. He's expected to be good to go. Linebacker Ulysses Gilbert and safety Jordan Dangerfield are questionable. Let's talk about these Steelers, Bebsy. There's been many times throughout our friendship that we've bet on these Steelers futures. We've had them to win the conference, to win the Super Bowl. We're not on them this year. They're sitting at 7-0. They just beat the Ravens in Baltimore. What do you think of this football team?
I mean, they're fantastic. They're rolling. They're getting things done on both sides of the ball. Even though they were getting mauled by the Ravens last week on the ground, they still found a way to come back and beat a tough divisional opponent in their barn. I came so close to pulling the trigger on them. I still got the team total over last week and the points over in that game. I wanted to jump on the Steelers. I want to jump on them again this week. 13.5 points is very doable because this Dallas team is defunct. They're I don't know if DiNucci is starting this week. I think it might be Dalton. It's just a ton of points for a Steelers team that knows they can roll this week. They know they don't have to play their best game to win, so I find that can be dangerous. But I don't know. Like, look, just read DiNucci bench. QB's competing to start Garrett Gilbert and Cooper Bush, who sound like singers in off-Broadway show. Steelers roll. Oh, man. Yeah, it is. Off the COVID list. Oh, man. This screams jump on the Steelers. Oh, my God.
It's another thing. In our history, we look at these bye weeks as this very important time for a team to rest up. But now they all come back with COVID. Joe Free said I jumped on the Steelers minus 13.5 easy money. Oh man, this is DiNucci. If DiNucci only plays one game in his career and I make $166 off of him for running for over 12.5 yards, I'm gonna buy him anything he wants at the bar when I meet him. Cowboys coming off 23-9 loss at Philadelphia. They were driving, and in that fumble. It was all DiNucci's fault, and at that point, you blame the team that fumbles the ball. But I thought that it was down before it got banged out of his hands, and the guy ran it back, and I thought I was going to cash my Cowboys plus 10.5. Zeke ran 1,963 yards. Gallup caught 7 passes for 61 yards. Van Der Esch and Lee patrolled the middle of the field. Their defense looked much, much better. Can you give me that, Bebsy? Their defense looked quite good in that game.
Good?
I thought so. I mean, the Eagles are bad, but I thought their defense looked good. They held the Eagles to 222 total yards.
The Eagles don't have an O-line, and bad Wentz showed up. That's the problem, is when Wentz is missing open targets, and is it the defense playing great or is it Wentz playing bad? I don't know if I can get excited by this Dallas defense now just because Sean Lee's back. Is that the difference?
Well, maybe when you put it like that, maybe.
Okay? So Joe Free's bullish on this play, and I agree with him. I get it, and he's probably right. It could go up. What's the first half in this?
Let's find out for you. Odds.com first half spread in the licensed American books. Let's see what we can get for you, Bebsy. First half. Nope. Nothing available. So why don't we go to Bet365? See what I can get for you here. First half.
Easy saying this is Pittsburgh's second bye. No. Don't be scared.
It's completely off the board, Bebsy. Because I guess they don't know who's quarterback. I know. Well, why is this?
Well, I don't know if anybody wants to put it up right now. This should be an absolute shit kicking by the Steelers. My only concern is the Steelers taking this a little bit easy or having a backdoor cover on this, which I don't think DiNucci is capable of a backdoor. Yeah, this is dumb. I think I'm on this.
DiNucci. Okay. Chicago 23 in the house. Thank you for joining us, my man. Steelers is going to be a bet I'm going to make as soon as I can. I'm also going to take this under, Bebsy. What do you think of this under if it's sitting at 42?
Well, let me jump in on this game first. I'm taking Pitt at 13.5.
But you can't. I can't officially give it to you. Oh, sorry, that was first half. Sorry, of course.
Yeah, it's only first half.
Full game, I can give that to you. I can't bet it myself at this point, but I can give you. Oh no, sorry, I take that back. Is it just first half that are off the board? Let me see if I can get a full game here. Yeah, I can get a full game. Yeah, I agree. It's at minus 120. It's going to be at 14 in a second at Bet365. Let's see what I can give you here. Minus 13.5 and minus 110. It's available at DraftKings.
Yeah, look, I've been on them all year. I got to stay on them at this point.
What do you think of this under 42?
I think the Steelers can score 42 points.
What do you think of the Cowboys under 13.5?
I'm worried about backdoor covering, and that's my biggest concern.
I was fortunate with my Jets team total under that they missed that field goal at the end of the first half, so they were only at 9 points. But I was legitimately, even at 12, I was at 9 points. I was like, ha ha ha! Watch this. I was so confident that the Jets were going to put up no points in the second half, and I sort of feel this way. I like your Steelers look here. I like Joe Free's Steelers look. I'm going to come with you guys on this, but I'm also going to take this Dallas team total under. Alrighty, let's keep rolling. Joe Free says, take the 13.5 now. Okay, Dolphins, Cardinals. Man, this is a very exciting game. Only 3 games left on this card. This has been fun breaking these games down. I like this card a lot. We'll see, a week from now if I'm sitting here. But I really think I'm going to take advantage of what happened last week. Dolphins, Cardinals, 4-3 for the Dolphins. Cardinals, 5-2. Tagovailoa, first NFL start. I mean, Bebs, this game was absolutely nuts. I mean, it made no sense. And I was so thankful that I didn't take the Rams because of the short week. And Birdie kept talking about what a bad spot it was for the Rams. And that was the only reason why I didn't take the Rams. Dolphins win 28-7.
Rams' travel schedule has been almost unfair.
They've had a tough one.
They're over 20,000 miles, and it's week 8.
Wow. I didn't know that. Tagovailoa, NFL start, first NFL start, 28-17 win at home with the Rams. The first time he tried to throw the ball, it was as if all I could think about was you, Bebsy. Aaron Donald hits him. He gets driven into the turf. He loses the football. Just as you had said, you had said that was going to happen. They were outgained by 326 yards. That's the largest discrepancy of any winning team in 18 years. It was a very difficult game to handicap the next game from. Miami, 4 takeaways in the first half. They lead 28-10 at the half. They don't score a point in the second half. They're outgained 224-54 in that first half. Tua goes just 12-22 for 93 yards, 1 TD. They finished with just 145 yards of offense, 3 yards per play. The Rams ran 92 plays to the Dolphins' 48. Tagovailoa, his offense got 8 first downs. The Rams held the ball for 13 more minutes. Dolphins score on a 78-yard fumble return, an 88-yard punt return. The Dolphins have outscored their opponents 95-34 in the past 3 games. They're over 500 for the first time in 23 games under Flores. And they're a really healthy group. They got Jamal Perry, their cornerback, linebacker Landon Roberts, and running back Patrick Laird are all questionable this week. But they're a really healthy group. Bebsy, what do you think of the Dolphins? What do you think of Tua's first start?
Look, the Dolphins' defense has been impressive, and they're keeping them in games. They're winning them games. I like the Dolphins' defense. Tua, at least in week 1, or in his first game, rather, he looked like an Alabama quarterback to me. He looked like a guy who was surrounded by studs in college, incredible protection in Bama on that offensive line. Like, this is a guy who had the luxury of throwing to Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, and Waddell at the same time. He had all 3 of those guys. He did not impress me at all in week 1. The Dolphins won in spite of Tua. So I'm not too high on him yet. It's his first game. I'm not gonna formulate my forever opinion on him right now, but I wasn't impressed. He looked like a Bama product. Let's not forget the last star quarterback to come out of Alabama was Joe Namath. Like they have not, or Bart Starr. Those are the last great Bama quarterbacks. Like that's how bad they're almost as bad as Ohio State. And maybe Justin Fields will change that. So I wasn't impressed with Tua at all. I know it was one game. I know he had to face Aaron Donald. I said that would be problematic, but I'm not too keen on watching him play.
I'm keen on watching him play because I want to make money off of it. And I think that we have to back Arizona here. The issue is that they're favored right in that tricky spot, between 4 and 7. They open up at -5. The leading indicator books have moved it to 4.5. And my only move on the Cardinals would be to wait. Just hope that these other punters are going to sit and think about that, or the lazy cappers or the tourists are going to sit there and look at the score only at 28-17 and push this down. That's the only thing I can think of. Cardinals are coming up their bye week. Now, look, this Cardinals defense is tricky. They lose Chandler Jones for the year. Devin Kennard does not look good. Isaiah Simmons has been pretty much non-entity for an 8th overall pick until
he's had one big play this year for all the hype that's been around him.
Yeah.
So I'm not counting him out, but remember, I said this before the season started. I said players like him who kind of line up all over the field in college have trouble really adjusting. I think he's not quite big enough to be a thumper now, and the linebacker position has changed, and I do believe he'll be great, but I said at the start of the year it'll be a while before his impact is felt if he really makes that next step. So I'm not super excited about the play either. I'm with you. I think maybe if this gets bet down a little bit, sit back and wait on Arizona, but I'm off this game.
Dennis Garcia talking about the under here, 47.5, now at 48. My only concern is, okay, I ask you this, Bebsy. If we're going to back the Cardinals, we have to trust their defense. And I know that they've had players step up in the absence of Chandler Jones, but I don't know if I trust them. Do you trust this Cardinals defense to get the job done? We have Jordan Hicks and Jordan Phillips, a linebacker and defensive lineman, questionable. Kenyon Drake is out, by the way. So that foot injury that we saw him have, he's not playing this week. So that's
I still think Chase Edmonds looked fantastic coming in. I think they'll be fine with him there. You're right. It's the defense you worry about. But until I see Tua light somebody up, then I'm not going to get too excited about him carving up a defense, even the one like Arizona's that I don't really trust. Now, I want to be clear, too. I like Tua Tagovailoa. I want him to do well. I don't want people to think I'm trashing him. I'm trashing Bama's quarterbacks as a whole, not him. I want him to do well. I don't know if we're going to see it. And until I do, I can't get excited about it.
And by the way, our Nutflush Allen's been eating off these Murray rushing props. So just a quick, before we move on, let's move on. But against the Seahawks, their third straight win for the Cardinals, Kyler Murray throws for 360 yards, 3 touchdowns, runs for 67 yards. So he's on pace to throw for 4,222 yards and run for 999 yards this season. And no quarterback in NFL history has topped 4,000 yards passing and 1,000 yards rushing. So he's exceeded my expectations. Would you say Kyler Murray's exceeded your expectations, or do you expect him to be this good?
I was high on Kyler Murray. I think aside from his height, there's no real knock on him. Throws a beautiful ball. He throws extremely well on the run. he also is very good at not getting hit. He knows when to slide. He knows when to dip out of bounds. Yeah, Kyler Murray is going to be a problem in this league for a long time, and especially with the weapons this guy has. This guy has, obviously, DeAndre Hopkins, who, in my opinion, there's nobody I'd rather have at receiver in the league right now. There's arguments to be made there. I'm not going to get into it. He's my personal favorite wide receiver in the NFL. Can't believe Bill O'Brien gave him up for nothing. And then he's got, Larry Fitzgerald. He's got the vet there. He's got Christian Kirk, who's obviously a very talented receiver. And then he's got a great deep threat in Andy Isabella. So he also has a ton of weapons that are helping him out. But, yeah, I'm high on Murray. I think the guy is going to be a fantastic player.
Bled's W on the first half spot here for the Cardinals. I think that's a great idea. Be curious, is it – I don't want to get too excited about what the number is going to be. Let me see it. Wow, you can get a 3. That's a must bet. That's an absolute must bet. Bled's W. God, my man Bled's always coming with the heat. I want that first half. I'm just going to leave it at that. I think the first half is the best look on this game. And shout out to Bled's. I'm going to bet that first half. Is there a spot for you here on this game, Bebsy?
There's no spot for me here. I can't decide one way or another which team I like here.
Let's move on to the Sunday nighter, Saints Buccaneers. This is one of the few games where there is some weather possibilities. Let's not get too excited about what it says on Tuesday, especially in Tampa. But 76 Fahrenheit, showers, 16 miles per hour. Nathan Cerna says, repeat, Jimmy. Yes, I will repeat. Cardinals first half. Rolling my man Bleds. 8:20 p.m. Eastern, Sunday nighter, Saints Buccaneers. Saints 5-2, 2-1 on the road. Bucks 6-2, 3-0 at home. Saints coming off the 26-23 overtime win in Chicago. Breeze was 31 for 41, 280 yards, 2 TDs, 0 interceptions. Kamara had another great game. Bevsy, I'm not very good at props, and they're much more. I find much more difficult in football than they are in basketball, or even hockey, in that matter. And Kamara, with nobody. There's nobody else Breeze can go to. And he keeps exceeding whatever the books put up for his receiving props. Not his rushing props, but his receiving props. And Jesus, he had 9 catches for 96 yards. Of course he did. He was their only option. And Breeze can't throw far. It's a game.
It's Sean Payton's ability to get a specific guy open. There's a handful of offensive coordinators in the league or head coaches that can do that. And Sean Payton's one of them. So, yeah, Kamara, even if he is their only weapon, he won't be this week because Emmanuel Sanders is back. So that'll open things up a little bit.
Is that facts that he's back?
I'm pretty sure I read that earlier today. But it was a tweet, so I can't put stock in it.
Buccaneers open at -4.5. They've now moved to -5.5. The total has dropped from 54.5 down to 51.5. I completely understand why it dropped. I almost feel like to really succeed at handicapping football, you almost have to pick whether you're going to do college football and NFL football. Because trying to get ahead of both of the line movements, I mean, this is what I do full time. And we're in our first fall without NHL and NBA. And I can't. It's too much. I'm trying to get ahead of the college football. As soon as I try to get to college football, I'm falling behind the NFL football. Clearly, that 54.5 with the weather. Now, maybe it won't. Maybe this game soars over. But at this point, I can understand why it's moved down to 51.5. Michael Thomas, 2019 Offensive Player of the Year, being a mess all year long. His injury sandwiched between a one-game suspension. Will he be back in the lineup? I had Emmanuel Sanders still out with COVID, but it makes sense that he would be back.
He's got to be. It's been like 3 weeks, has it not?
I would say 2 to 2.5. But, yeah, Marquez Callaway out. Nick Easton, their center. Linebacker Quan Alexander, questionable. And then Sheldon Rankins left late in the first half, and they call it a mild MCL sprain. So a big guy like that.
That's a huge blow because Sheldon Rankins was playing better and better as this season was coming. He was really coming into his own, and that is a big man and an important part of that defense.
Wow, we have a big look from Kirk Gray on the Saints money line, and Mr. Funmonk been rolling with us for 2 hours and 5 minutes. Mr. Funmonk, first guy in the chat, still giving us good stuff. Says Sanders is back. Shout out to you, Mr. Funmonk, my man. Let's talk about the Bucs on a short week. Underwhelming 25-23 win over the Giants. Brady, took $400 out of my pocket. It wasn't how he did it as much as no, I take that back. It was exactly how he did it. He looked so bad, and I was like, "What? Why did I put this money on this 43-year-old?"
He did. He was overthrowing open targets. He underthrew. And I know we were texting back and forth in that game. That underthrow when he had Evans so open deep, and he just didn't have the juice left in his arm to do it. But it's old man versus old man in this.
There was one 7-yard pass to the sidelines where he overthrew it, and at that point, I knew I was screwed. It was I can't remember exactly, but maybe a couple minutes left in the first quarter, and I was like, "Oh my!" And the problem is I went in so confident. I hate that so much. It's like expectations. Anytime you have high expectations for something, you need to have just regulated expectations. Evans catches 5 passes for 55 yards, 1 TD. He's not putting up nearly the numbers he would, even last year. With the crab thief, he's not putting up near the numbers. But he's excited because he knows he's a red zone target. And Gronk is a red zone target. It just, when I'm watching Brady in action, I'm like, man, all you are doing is you have these red zone targets.
I mean, he has so many weapons, and throughout his entire career, Tom Brady is exceptional at getting through his reads quickly. And so when you have that many weapons, and he's just he scans the field so well. And he obviously knows defenses so well. So yeah, when you have multiple red zone threats, then yeah, he just rifles through it so beautifully. I mean, look, Evans is going to have like 600 yards and 15 touchdowns this year. It's wild. It's
so wild. And if Winston was there, it'd be a totally different story. He'd have a few touchdowns and then 1,500 yards.
There's Mr. Funmonk also. He posted a little while ago that AB hasn't played in 2 years, and we should give him maybe he needs a week. I agree. I don't expect him to do much, but what I do believe is, what Joe Free is saying right here, and what Mark Nicholson is also saying. He's at the very least going to be a decoy. You have to respect Antonio Brown, even if he hasn't played for a while. He's still Antonio Brown. They can't just ignore him. So that opens up so much. Even with Godwin. When Godwin is back and those 3 guys are playing with Gronk, I mean, that's just a joke to have that many weapons on one team, especially if AB is anything like the player he was before he stopped playing.
I think about this spot as Brady has to throw the ball for the team to succeed. So I agree with Ron Walsack. I think Ron Walsack's bang on.
See, I don't know about that because if Rankin's out, then you have an immediate problem stopping the run. And we've seen Ronald Jones exceed expectations this year. And who knows when Fournette's due to go off again.
I think Fournette's done. I think Ronald Jones steps up after. I was surprised that he got benched after that fumble. What was his first fumble in 3 years? I mean, he should have stayed down. I mean, what? That's the problem is that it's in his, at his own 10. But I really think that it was a harsh decision to sit him for the rest of the first half after that fumble. And I do not trust Fournette. Do you trust Fournette?
No, I don't. But look, I said Fournette's legs were wasted at LSU because they gave him too many touches, and it's true. He's just been worse every year because a lot of wear on those tires, but he's still an absolute truck of a man. And if he's healthy, he can do some damage.
Well, I wish I could be a team psychologist and look in these guys' eyes. There's something doesn't feel right about Fournette, and I didn't like the call on Ronald Jones benching him for the rest of the first half. I bet you Ronald Jones is the RB1 in this game. The Bucs were 4 for 12 on third down. They were outgained by the Giants. After losing Vea for the year, they only have Chris Godwin out of the lineup. So they're a really fresh, healthy club. And we have Birdie here so bullish on the Buccaneers. And I get it. And I was thinking that I would get a better line. I thought that the public would see what happened to Tampa in that game against the Giants and think maybe they aren't that good. I guess between 4.5 and 6, 4.5 and 5.5, who cares? I think the Bucs are the play. I agree with Birdie. What do you think?
Look, I agree, but I also believe that the Saints are starting to put it together. And so they scare me a little bit with the spread here, but I get it. I understand why. But
do you wait until Emmanuel Sanders is cleared and then get a half a point and then take the Bucs?
Yeah, that is a possibility. It's a game I might be more intrigued with on Sunday, but right now I don't feel too strongly about it.
What did you think of Saints' 26-23 win over the Bears? And what do you think about Drew Brees leading this team? Whether or not we need to see what if Michael Thomas changes things.
Well, I'll put it this way. I heard Cam Jordan on the Dan Patrick show today, and they asked him about Michael Thomas, and his answer and the way he answered it did not sound good. It did not sound. He dodged the question. He's like, "That's a question for Michael Thomas." Just the way he answered it told me that they do not like Michael Thomas in that dressing room right now. It just I don't know what's going on there, but it doesn't feel good.
No, agreed. And nickname has changed, and I think the Buccaneers smash. And by smash, I just mean a win over 7 points. I do not trust Drew Brees. I'd be very curious to see if I get a better number than 5.5. But what does that mean? 4.5? What's the difference? There's no difference.
There's no difference there.
So I don't. But I'm hesitant. We've talked about there's a lot of spots, especially on the 1 p.m. games, that I'm bullish on. This one I'm going to sit with. And again, we have our show Sunday at 11 a.m. We can figure this out. Monday nighter, last game on the card, Patriots, New York Jets. Patriots open up at -7.5. They're down to 7. The leading indicator books still have them at 7.5, but at plus money. Beautiful weather. There's going to be beautiful weather all week. 61 Fahrenheit, clear, 4 miles per hour. Patriots coming off their 4th straight loss, 24-21 at Buffalo. First loss at Buffalo since 2011. Newton fumbled at the Buffalo 13 with 31 seconds left to seal the deal. 15 for 25, 174 yards. No TDs, no picks. Ran 9 times for 54 yards. Patriots were -3. Very key players. Stephon Gilmore, Julius Edelman, N'Keal Harry, all listed as questionable. Jacoby Myers led the receiving corps with 6 catches for 58 yards. Damian Harris looked good running, 16 times for 102 yards and 1 TD. Love to see Sony Michel back in action. Jawan Bentley, their linebacker, and defensive end Lawrence Guy, injured during the game, listed as questionable. Carl Davis, their defensive tackle, their safety Kyle Duggar, tight end Dalton Keene, and Devin Asi are all listed as questionable this week. Let's talk about the Patriots first, Bebsy. I do not want them as 7-point favorites here.
No, and I mean, Birdie just popped in and said, Bebsy, why do I like the Jets here? I can't bet it, but I do like the Jets, and I kind of agree with Birdie. As much as I like going head-to-head with the Birdman, I think the Patriots might be getting a little extra love for the way that they hung with a Buffalo team that's been playing bad. So I just think this is too many points for a team that's they're just devoid of talent right now. They lost so much this offseason. They lost more with the guys opting out for COVID, with either medical reasons or the fact that they were having newborns and stuff like that and didn't want to play. There's not much talent on this roster right now. Belichick's interview where he's just like, yeah, we went all out. We won 3 Super Bowls and now we just don't have the players.
But it was a financial thing. It was weird. Didn't you find it? I found that so strange.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. And he's trying not to say, look, the team's shit. And he wants to say that, but he can't come out and say, look, this is the worst fucking team I've ever coached personnel wise. And then walk into the locker room and be like, all right, guys, let's go get him. So yeah, he's got to find a more creative way to say that. But look, both of these teams do not have much talent. The difference is one is coached by Bill Belichick and one is coached by Adam Gase. So there's the massive – if anything, the Jets have more talent on their roster. So I think it's too many points to give the Patriots in this one. They should win. Like I said, I think the Jets are going 0-16. And I don't think the team wants to go 0-16, and this is a spot where they have a chance to maybe squeak out a win. I don't think they will, but brutal teams that are staring at 0-16, they don't want that distinction, so they put up a better fight against teams where they see a possible chance of winning. So I just think the spread is too high right now in this.
Agreed. I think it's time to bet the New York Jets. I also think Ron Walczak's look on over 9 punts might be brilliant. And I don't usually say that about punt props. But it might be fucking brilliant. So I have written that note down, Ron Walczak over 9 punts. That might be such a sharp look, Ron. I don't mean to laugh when I say it, but it might be such a sharp look. The Jets have to be the play for me.
Easy's got a great stat here, and holy fuck, I want to scream this to the world. Gase has more losses by 20 points than he has wins as a head coach. How does this guy have a job? That is a mind-boggling stat.
Oh man. Nathan's certainly giving us a final score of 21-10. I don't want to get too confident. Pineapple Cook says the under is the best play this game. Jets not scoring more than 13. Let's talk about the Jets, and then we'll talk about this 13 from Pineapple Cook. Jets coming off 35-9 loss at Kansas City. Held the Chiefs to just 50 yards on the ground. Chiefs still put up 446 yards through the air. Darnold, though, was without his top receivers in Crowder and Perryman. They both remain questionable. Without them, he goes 18 for 30 for 133 yards. They're 0-8 for the first time since 1996. Linebacker Blake Cashman, offensive tackle Cameron Clark remain questionable. Quinnen Williams hurt his hamstring. Now, I need to read between the lines. And not reading between the lines was the reason why I didn't get paid off on the Jacobs prop for the Raiders. I should have read between the lines and know that his knees barking or whatever that comment was just that sit him in the game room for a while, let him watch some film of him succeeding or whatever it was. So, but Quinnen Williams, I think he maybe just left the game because he's so important to the team.
100%. I think you'll see Becton take some time off this year, just because. Hey, why ruin these guys?
Yeah.
Time and again, even with the Niners, Kittle's like, I can come back in 2 weeks, and they're just like, just sit down, George. Like when you are winning, you tough out injuries, you play through stuff. When you know your season is over, like the Jets obviously do, and the Jets are staring at a possible winless season, you look at guys like Quinnen Williams and Mekhi Becton, who might be battling some little injury, and you sit them down. You do it because you don't really want to win games. You don't want the media to know you're tanking, but it's kind of obvious sometimes when you have Adam Gase as a head coach. But you're absolutely right, Jimmy. You don't put a guy like Quinnen Williams in if he's got anything nagging you. You let him rest. You let him learn. You let him be a better player down the road, and you stay away from certain games.
This total has gone up 1.5 since Bet365 opened it at 41. Nathan Cerna got it at 43.5. Joe Free says maybe the under is the play for the Jets game. Why is it going up?
I don't know how it's going up because I don't know what players on either team can score points.
Yeah.
Is Jamison Crowder the best offensive weapon playing in this game?
Well, I don't think he's going to be playing. I hope he's playing because I'm going to take the Jets. But him and Perriman have been out. So, if I want to pull up – sorry, I got the battle for 270.
So, wait, what's the points total sitting at now?
42.5.
Jesus, that screams under, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? I mean, the weather's perfect. But does it matter?
It doesn't matter. There's no players. There's nobody puts up points.
I mean, I don't want to be sitting here with a triple up because I am going to be taking the Jets. I think Ron Walsack completely nailed this with the over 9 punts. So those are 2 looks I'm going to make.
I mean, that is a hilarious bet.
It's Ron.
I want to take it just because it's the funniest bet of the year.
You know what? I used to love punt bets, and I used them all the time. And then I made the over punt bet in the Eagles-Patriots Super Bowl, and I've never bet an over punt bet since.
Okay, hang on. Punt bets aside, who scores points in this game?
Nobody.
It's got to be an under.
It's got to be an under. It's got to be an under. Ziggy Ball says don't take the Jets. I don't know. Because, look, Ziggy Balls, if the Jets don't cover, then I cash the under. Lily Gunn saying under. This looks like a triple up spot for me. Under.
I have to get in on this under. I just don't know who puts up points here. Right? That's what it boils down to for me.
Let's get this under locked down. Our final game on this card, the Monday Nighter, Patriots Jets. Also, the low bag team is in Vegas this weekend. If any of you guys watching can get to Vegas, Breeders' Cup, NCAA football Saturday, NFL football Sunday, I hope you can roll. I know that Lily Gunn, half of the Vegas Gun team, will be rolling with everybody. Man, I wish I was there. All right, the total, Bebsy's up to 42.5. I can get you a minus 110. It's everywhere.
I'm on it.
Under 42.
I'll be angry if this goes up even further. But again, who puts up points here?
All right, that's every game broken down on this NFL card. Bebsy sitting at 33-20 on the year. A spectacular record. But he's coming off his first losing week. He's out for blood. Still up 9.75 units. Still has an ROI plus 18.40%. Average line minus 112. And all I can promise you is honesty and transparency throughout this journey, this gambling journey that we take on together. Bebsy, you gave us your best bet, and it was this of the 1 p.m. games. It was the Seahawks first half minus a half at Buffalo this Sunday. We're going to all of your action. Let's go over all of your action, and I'm going to tweet out my bets here. I'm going to spend about probably an hour just to the first ones I want to get to the table with. I know we're dealing with some COVID issues, so I might hold back on some. But follow us both on Twitter. For me, at Jimmy the Bag, for my action all the time, but at Rob Bebenek. And Bebsy gives you more than just football analysis, one of the best stand-up comedians in North America. Bebsy, you're off of your Thursday nighter as usual. I might be moving on this over knowing that there's no running game. We can talk about that. We still have 45 hours before kickoff. I am going to be doubling up on the Falcons. That didn't interest you as much as it made my palm sweat. I am going to be betting on the Bears as soon as I understand the COVID situation on the offensive line. You moved on the under 53 in the Lions-Vikings. I think that's an interesting look. I want to spend more time with it. I do want the Lions badly. Ravens and the over is what I want. But again, we're dealing with COVID tests. No move for Bebsy. Panthers, Chiefs, no moves for either of us. Texans, Jaguars, I'm bullish. I'm going to be betting the Texans as soon as we're done the show. First half and full game. And I'm also interested in the Jaguars team total under. Bebsy moved on the first half minus 3.5, minus 113 at Bet Rivers. That was his only move on that game, but I'm going to triple up on that spot. Giants, Redskins, Bebsy moved on the under 42, minus 110. I get it. It makes a lot of sense. It's a very low total. I'm going to focus on just the Washington Football Club minus 3. Raiders, Chargers, we both stayed off. That's a very scary game. Steelers, Cowboys, Bebsy moved on the Steelers minus 13.5, minus 110 at DraftKings. I'm going to take the Cowboys team total over, team total under, and I'm going to move on the Steelers. Dolphins, Cardinals, I want the Cardinals first half. No move for Bebsy at this point. On the Sunday nighter, I want the Bucks. I want that number to go down. On the Monday nighter, Bebsy moved on the under 42.5. Ron Walsek on the over 9 punts. I want the Jets. I want the over 9 punts, and I want the under 42.5. That's what I want. And there is your entire card. Bebsy, best bet.
I think it's still the Seattle minus half a point. But I also, I'm really loving the Jets under, or the Jets New England under on Monday night. It just screams under for me. So I really like that. But I still think my best play is Seahawks minus a half over Buffalo. Man, Bebsy, you put in the hustle week in and week out. I love working with you. I love breaking this down. Steel Curtain says, when's your college football show? That was our opening line show was Monday. So Monday, Tuesday, and then Saturday, Sunday is what we're focusing on. But this week, if you know me, I'm a thoroughbred handicapper first and foremost. At least that's what I prefer to be doing. That's what brings me the most joy. And it's Breeders' Cup this weekend, and I just can't wait to attack. So we'll be live. Odds.com will be live for every single Breeders' Cup race, all Friday, all Saturday. Thank you guys in the chat. Truly, on a night like this when there's so much going on outside of football, let's just leave it at that. You know, we keep our heads in the sands. So what else is going on tonight?
There's so much going on outside of football. It's you guys that make this show so special. Nathan Cerna, Nutflush Allen, Slats 45. Viper NB, Cynthia Paniagua, Steel Curtain, Mr. Fun Monk, Chris Brady, Dennis Garcia, Mark Nicholson. Mark Nicholson was money, man. You put so much energy into the chat, and it really does inspire us. And Mark Nicholson, you were money in the bank. Prince of the City, Viper NB, Joe Free, Al Cervic, Lance LaRose, Chris Brady, Pineapple Cook, Top Set, Ron Walsek. It really feels like Chris Brady, Bleds W. It feels like we're in this together, and it's a good feeling. Ziggy Ball's back in action. Bebsy, any last words before we put a bow on this?
Yeah, much love to everyone in the chat. A few guys shouting out my comedy album tonight. Chris Brady, Al Cervic, and Birdie. So I appreciate that, boys. I really like the shout out. But you're all beauties. So much great input. Really appreciate you joining us every week and making this show fun and easy for us.
Fun. Yeah, very, very enjoyable. I enjoy this immensely. Lily Gunn, love seeing you in the chat. Love knowing that you're going to be rolling with the boys, hanging with everybody in Vegas this weekend. If anybody's close to Vegas, get out with them low baggers, man. They're going to be doing it up big for college football, NFL football, but most importantly, Breeders' Cup. Bebsy, a beautiful record, and angry after this first losing week. It took 8 weeks for him to lose. I thought I was going to have a giant week last week, and I expect to have a big week this week. I know that the psychology around sports gambling is going to work in my favor this week. And next week, next Tuesday, we can sit here and go, okay, I was wrong. But I truly think there's going to be a recency bias that the public bettors are going to have with last week's action, and I'm going to take advantage of it. I'll milk the shit out of it. I'm going to be tweeting my action out within the next 2 hours, and also Bebsy's action. Much love. Thank you, guys. Let's just hope outside, because we're mostly in North America, let's just hope that outside everything goes okay tonight. Everything goes okay.
Yes. Also, I got to add, Mark Nicholson was a beauty tonight, and the real Billy Roger cracked me up on more than one occasion. So thanks to both you gentlemen as well.
Let's get paid. Mr. Fun Monk says he'll be there for Breeders' Cup, man. We're about 60 hours away from me losing my shit for Breeders' Cup action. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. We're Bebsy and I Sunday morning. Bebsy, you dipped under 10 units. I imagine you're going to be over it when we come back a week from now on Tuesday. Thank you guys for watching. Get paid in full.